What is up, everybody? We have a new, fresh start podcast right now coming at you. King of the Queens City. I got myself, Nick. To the right of me is over here. I don't know if he's actually to the right of me, but he's next to me. We got Zach. We call him Gooch. That's his nickname. Below him, we got Matt. Usually he's Rat, so if you're hearing Rat, that's what he is. And then below me, we have Tyler, but we call him TDs. We're trying to start something fresh, talk about some hockey, talk about some sports. We're getting all into it. So I don't know who wants to take it away from me. I mean, unless you want me to jump into it, I'll go for it. Sound good, guys?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, go ahead. Just hit off the first topic.
All right. So obviously we are from the Queen City, also known as Buffalo. But we got the Bills. But most importantly, we're gonna talk about our hockey. We're gonna talk about our Sabres. So Sabres are looking a little rough right now. They're not great. But it's a struggle. It is a struggle, to say the least.
It's the fairest way to put it at this point is a extremely rough start to the season. I mean, I know that there's a lot of new guys on this team right now, and with the way that the league is being run with COVID going on, it's going to be tough, but it's definitely not the start I expected out of the Sabres. I mean, with the additions that they made.
I agree with that for sure.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that with Taylor Hall, he started pretty well, but I was kind of hoping with the additions we made, obviously it's a little tough to gel without any major off-season preparations and whatnot. But it just seems like there's been a few games already this season. We've played 6, I think, 5 or 6. And
so far we have 5 games.
5, yeah. So I feel like 2 of those we could have definitely won already. It just seems like we either a lot. I know last night against the Capitals, they blew a lot of chances based off of I was listening to the radio broadcast. There's a lot of chances missed in front, and then Dahlin actually ended up getting benched in the third period because he gave away 2 relatively easy goals that could have been prevented. So I don't know. It's just they're not gelling, I think, the way a lot of people hope they would. I mean, I'm sure it'll come over time, but I mean, it's got to happen sooner or later.
I like that you brought up the Dahlin point. I mean, I think we should touch on that. I mean, I was a big Dahlin fan when he got drafted. I mean, I think he's still an exceptional talent. But, I mean, I think this year he really regressed already. I mean, maybe it's just – I don't know. I mean, he has to take that step up to the top line, and those are top line minutes he's playing. And it looks like they're kind of moving – they're still a little bit down, kind of moving the minutes around. But the problem is I just think Dahlin is just looking nervous. He's making mistakes that I did not see Dahlin make last year at all. And I don't understand why he's doing that.
It's interesting with Dahlin, like you said, with that step back that he's taken this year. I remember watching his highlights of him in the SHL the year that he was drafted. And as a Sabres fan, I'm thinking to myself the entire time that I'm watching this, there's no way this kid's going to be a Sabre. I mean, we're not going to get the first overall pick.
Not that lucky.
Ended up happening, which I caught everybody by off guard. No one thought we were going to win. But the way that he played in Europe was just so different than the way he plays over here. And I get the ice surface is different in Europe. It's not the same dimensions. But the thing is, Dahlin in Europe was not afraid to carry the puck. He had excellent vision. He made the right decisions. He hardly made mistakes. And it's a lot of pressure for an 18-year-old to come over and, be talked about as being that franchise defenseman already. But again, like you guys said, with that step back, he looked like he was making solid adjustments over the past couple of years, translating to the North American game. But I think that the coaching staff is asking too much of him right now with the struggles that they have defensively. They're not a good defensive team. Everybody's known this for a long time. But I think that they're putting too much on Rasmus right now, telling him, you got to be that shutdown guy. But it's not his play style. He's more of an offensively gifted defenseman, and that's what he's going to be. And if you try to change him, it's going to get into his head and it's going to shut him down.
I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is we're all from Buffalo. We're all big, Sabres, Bills fans, Bandits fans, all that good stuff in there. But the biggest thing is Sabres fans and Bills fans and Buffalo sports fans want production right away. They wanted it from Josh Allen. They wanted it from Jack Eichel. They wanted it from, whatever have you. If you're a top pick or you're a new asset to the team, they want something big coming from them. And Dahlin had a really good year last year, or what was it, 2 years ago, I think? I don't know, but I guess it's his third full season, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
This is his third full season, yeah.
So, I mean, I was expecting, something, it's only 5 games in, like we said, it's not a big thing, but the biggest thing is I noticed that Sabres fans want things right away. And it's like guys like, Victor Hedman, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, the Swedish defenseman, Erik Karlsson. These guys were not making huge steps when they came to NHL the second year. They grew. I mean, people didn't know about Karlsson before, until they went to the playoffs that year, Ottawa did. Hedman wasn't really well known until, the past couple of years they went to the Cup, they went to the playoffs, stuff like that. I think Ekman-Larsson is still underrated. I think he's a very, very, very all-around sound defenseman, and he's in Arizona. That's the problem. But I mean, he's got to make a big step here, Dahlin. It goes along the lines of, you've been here for your third full year. It's time to get going, and it's either time to, I would never say in a million years trade him. I don't understand why people are thinking that's the best option. He's the first overall pick. I know there could be bust, but he's still a great, exceptional talent. He's just phenomenal. I love Dahlin. Dahlin's a great player. I would never want to trade him.
Exactly. He does not belong in anywhere near a conversation of a bust right now.
It's too early.
You want to talk about that maybe 3-4 years down the road? Absolutely, we can open up that door and have that conversation. But like you said, especially as a defenseman, this is not a forward. Forwards usually take steps a lot quicker. They put up points faster. Defensemen just don't do that. They take a little bit longer. It's almost like goaltenders, I think Dahlin's on the right track. I think that it's the struggles with the team. And the thing that you mentioned too, that's interesting, how Buffalo fans want a fast start all the time. We get it. Every sports team's fan base, they all want a fast start. They all want to be good right from the get-go. They don't want to struggle at all. But this year in the NHL with this 56 game season, to not come out starting strong, it is going to be absolutely killer. You can't come out flat-footed on a 56 game season that they're jamming into 3.5 months. You have to come out strong, and it's showing already in the standings. I mean, we're at the bottom of the East Division right now, and it's going to be insanely hard to claw our way up. I get it's only a couple games behind, but like I said, with shorter games, not as many chances to catch back up, it's going to be really, really, really hard to get into the playoffs if they continue at this pace. For sure.
So I got to ask, who is Dahlin typically paired with on his line?
I believe it's been Montour a lot this year so far. It does vary.
Out of the defenders on the Sabres right now, like, who would you say is the most defensively gifted that would be the best pairing with him, to where it would allow him to kind of go up and express himself with his offensive game? Obviously not Ristolainen, but
I don't know what Nick would say. I have 2 picks for that. I think it would be either Colin Miller, who we did see Dahlin play a little bit with, I believe it was last year, or Jake McCabe, which we haven't seen. And I really am not a big Jake McCabe fan, but the one thing that McCabe is good at is he does typically play pretty solidly defensively. He doesn't really lose his assignments. He's not as physical as Ristolainen. Everybody loves the physicality of Risto, but with McCabe, he's very stay-home minded type of a defenseman. I think that if they tried that out, that might free Dahlin up a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with what Rhett said 110%. I think that I would personally put him with Colin Miller. Colin Miller came over from Vegas, and he hasn't looked as great as he was in Vegas. I mean, you can't even say he was great because he's above average when he played in Vegas. He comes to Buffalo and he sits games. That's just how it goes sometimes. But the problem is, I'm a huge Jake McCabe fan. My brother is a humongous Jake McCabe fan, and I like Jake. I like the way he plays. I think he played a really solid, just all-around game. The offense isn't really there all the time, but Jake the problem with him is he's lefty, and the NHL nowadays is they want to be lefty righty of most of the time. I mean, right now the Sabres are running righty on the bottom pair. So the problem is if you run lefty in your top pair, your bottom two pairs, your bottom four defensemen are righty. And so you don't have a lefty to move the puck over there, which is a problem. And I mean, I agree with what Matt said 100%. I'd say McCabe or Miller, I think that could make Dahlin step up a little bit more. But, you know, it's tough. It's really tough.
I was wondering too. I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't know if you will, Nick. I can definitely look it up. But do we know what hand Will Borgen is?
Borgen is a righty.
Okay. See, because he did make the taxi squad, so I feel like even Borgen, in that case, if you wanted to play Borgen with Dahlin, I'm gonna go for that because Borgen is a very similar player to Jake McCabe. The only issue with it is if you went with that pair, you're probably gonna have to pull Dahlin back off of that top pair because you can't throw Will Borgen out on top pair minutes like that at 21 years old with only 2 games of NHL experience.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I have a question for Zach and Tyler just to kind of, get them a little bit more involved with the Sabres. I know you guys aren't humongous hockey fans. I mean, you guys, are starting to get a little bit more into it. You're doing this podcast with us, but when's the last time you watched? Either of you have watched a full season. I'm not saying every single game, but I'm saying from start to finish, you watched a lot of their games. Comparable to now, I know you're watching a little bit more hockey now with the Sabres. What's the difference? What have you seen differently?
I'd say, honestly, the last time I watched a crap ton of hockey was probably like my sophomore year of high school, just because, now we don't have TV anymore at my house because two out of my 3 siblings, including me, are at college and my mom's always working. So like, there's no reason to pay for TV if we don't have it. But back in high school, like everyone was home, so we always watched TV. So I just watched hockey with my dad sometimes. And I don't know, it just seems like back then, I don't know, it seems like we had a lot more experience in some way. So like, obviously we have a young team right now, but it felt like back then, even if we weren't winning games, it seemed like a lot more of the time we were playing well. And usually when I would watch teams, not even like just the Sabres either, there would be a lot more like passion in their game. And like, obviously morale and attitude depletes as you get scored on and you're losing games. Like, it's just going to snowball into an effect. But it just seems like every time like you saw it last night, the Sabres gave up a goal and then they were able to bounce back right away. And then they gave up another goal and they scored literally like a minute later. And you need that consistency in every game. So if you're getting scored on, you got to be able to bounce back and just like put it behind you. So I don't know. It just seems like, and obviously now it's way more difficult. Like I said, there's no off-season preparation, but you have to know that if the season's going to be different, you have to go in with a different mindset and how you can stick out games and how you can score and finish chances and then know not to give up an easy goal 2 minutes later. And it just cancels it right out.
For sure.
The one thing that's been holding me back from getting in this season is it seems like it's the same thing every year. We start strong, finish slow. It's like very repetitive. It doesn't seem like very much is changing. But then again, I haven't really been into it as much, so I could be completely wrong. That's just kind of like how I've been envisioning our team. Doesn't seem like there's too much progress. Like we're gaining a lot of talent, but we're just not meshing it together very well, and we're suffering because of it.
Yeah, that's definitely. I'm a huge hockey. I'm a huge Lightning fan, but I'm always a huge Sabres fan as well. The problem is, we start off hot like every year. The past 2 years, we start off red hot. We had, what was it, 2 years ago? Last year, I think it was 2 years ago. We had like the longest winning streak, and they're winning like in the teens. I know they're winning teens games. Like that's crazy. Like you're winning like 12, 13 games. You're getting crazy, and that's huge.
And then last year too, the power play was number 1 to start the year.
And the problem is now, look at the regression we have. We have our power play is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I know definitely, I've been a Sabres fan for 20 some years, as long as I've been born. But like the biggest thing I've noticed is the goaltending has been a huge issue. I mean, back when Sabres were, goat head, you could give up, 2 goals, or not even. You could give up, a bad goal, but Miller was back there, or Baron was solid. You knew like Hasek was back there, had solid goaltending where you could play a little chinty on the defense and play more offensive and spend your time more in the offensive zone. But now it's not like that. I mean, you have, I think Allmart's at that average mark, a little above. Hutton's below average. Hutton's, I don't know what's going on with him. I think it was kind of like for him, it was definitely just to bring him in and see how if he can, coach Allmart to something elite. But I don't know. It's a tough, revolving door here, and that's the biggest problem is we bring in these guys, they score 40 goals or 30 goals, they have 60 points, and they leave. I mean, we bring in Skinner, and now people are hating on the Skinner contract, and it's like the guy scored 40 goals. The last time they did that was Vanek in like 07. I mean, what are you gonna do? Let the guy walk out the door?
With the Skinner situation, it's you're never going to please the fans because you either sign the guy that put up 40 goals for you, and people were begging Jason Botterill to sign this guy. They're out there on Twitter going, doesn't matter what it costs. I don't care if he makes the same amount as Jack Eichel. Sign him. Get him 8 years. We need this goal scorer now that he's here, and now that he's pulled away from Jack. After earning that contract, it's all of a sudden Jeff Skinner is a terrible hockey player. That's not the case. But I like the point that you brought up about goaltending. I actually wanted to bring that up a little bit with especially UPL. I cannot believe the amount of fans that are out there right now just crying to the heavens. Pull up Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. This goaltending is terrible. We can't. Okay, so you're going to pull up the 19-year-old kid that's played one full season in the OHL. Yes, he did win OHL Player of the Year, but it's still junior hockey. He played one full season of the ECHL and then played a split season of the ECHL and the AHL. And let's not forget, his numbers in the AHL are not jumping off the page. That's not saying that he's going to be a bad goalie. It's just that it's so early on in this kid's career that you cannot bring this kid into the NHL, because you do that and you're going to take what you have in a good goalie prospect and absolutely destroy him in the matter of a year.
For sure. I mean, we Zach, Matt, and I were all watching the Washington game, and Samsonov was playing. I mean, Samsonov is a guy that he played over in Russia for a couple of years, and they drafted him. He played over in Russia. Came over to played in the AHL with Hershey. He had crazy good numbers off. Just like you said, jumping off the page numbers, and you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's gonna be great. He plays a full season last year, backing up Holtby. Holtby's, I think, still a pretty elite goaltender, not as he was before, but he's still very good. And he plays this season as the first year as a starter. And I mean, I think he's struggled tremendously. I mean, he's had some games that he's played good for him, but there's just, I know it's still early as well. I mean, they've only played probably 5, but he's giving up 4 goals a game. It's just like, it's crazy. I mean, and then like you said, you can't bring up UPL. What are you? I mean, goalies take the longest to progress. They take the longest to develop. You just can't do that. And the thing that we're going back to again with the Sabres fans, they want product now. They want the top thing right now, and it's just not. It's like a little kid when the new video game comes out and they want it right away. And that's how I think I compare Sabres fans and Bills fans to. I mean, they want it now. And I'm not bashing Sabres or Bills fan by any means, but you gotta. I mean, like Sean McDermott says all the time, you gotta trust the process. And look where the Bills. So
very true.
It's just the problem with this city and the sports teams. I mean, not the Bills this year, but at least all of our lives, we've had pretty bad sports teams, and we're at the point now where it's been, we've been told, oh, it's the coach, oh, it's the general manager, before Terry and Kim Pagula bought the teams, oh, it's the owners. Well, we changed all of those things, and we were almost promised immediate success, and now that we don't have that, these fans are just clawing and scratching for any type of sign of life with these teams. And it's not, like I said, it's not as bad with the Bills now. with the success that they're having. But it was definitely a painful process. I mean, everyone here would agree with that.
Yeah.
Definitely one thing I also remember too is I remember when the Pakulas did buy into the Sabres. One of the first hockey games I won. It was like one of the first games where they were in ownership, and I remember Terry Pagula going on the ice and like just like hyping everybody up, like we're gonna have a Stanley Cup within like 3 years and blah blah blah, and just like just it didn't obviously didn't happen. If in all fairness, in my eyes, like it doesn't seem like they really care too much.
I think so. I think I agree a little bit with Tyler. I think that they put all their eggs in one basket in the Bills. I mean, how much they've done for the Bills. I mean, you bring in, a great. I mean, I think they kind of struck gold with Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott. But I just
100%.
But I also think that the Bills are their number one priority sometimes, and I just feel like the Sabres get swept from the rug, or they don't whatever. And look at the product they're putting out again. And I mean, I know. I've seen the season ticket prices have gone up, and the season ticket members are dropping. I mean, they're losing percentages like every single year the past 3 years. So, I mean, the fan base is definitely showing that they don't really have faith in the team anymore.
Right. I don't think I can't put this on ownership at all, in my opinion. I just think that the way that sports teams are, that once you hit a certain point and you become so bad, it takes a long time to be better. I mean, we've seen that in history with a lot of teams, and I think that's just where the Sabres are at right now. You can try all kinds of things that you want right now. I mean, they obviously don't have unlimited cap space, but you could go out, you could get yourself Nathan McKinnon, you could get yourself Victor Hedman, you could get yourself the best goalie in the league, and there's probably still going to be a disconnect because you have to fill out the entire roster. Everything within the organization has to run so perfectly on winning teams. And really, I mean, it's not anybody's fault. It's just that every single year we see that one team made everything run smoothly and all the other teams in the league didn't. There was something that happened, whether that be with the player development, whether it be with the scouting, whether it be with the drafting, the training, the sports medicine, whatever the case may be. There's a disconnect somewhere, and some other team is going to always beat you out at it because there's going to always be a champion.
Yeah, and I think another issue too is like kind of basing it off of that is certain teams in the NHL do have such a great season, and then other teams try and like imitate that success, but it doesn't work out the same way. Like you can't just assume, oh, well, that coach did great, so and our coach did shit, so we're gonna fire him and we got to go hire that coach right away. Like he can't make it work just because he made it work with the other organization. Like he doesn't have the same pieces. He doesn't know how it runs yet. And it's like, I feel like a lot of the time the Sabres, they try and jump into it. And like you said, they want the instant success. And so when they jump right into it, then there's not that quick gel that everyone thinks there's going to be. And people don't want to wait. They want that success. So then when you just start bringing in new people every couple of years, it's like, well, nobody had time to settle down. Like, we've realized we've had McDermott for 4 years now. I don't know how long we had the other coaches for, and obviously we gave some of the other coaches time with their old ownership and whatnot, but we have put trust in McDermott, and I feel like we haven't found a good enough candidate for the Sabres head coaching job to where we can put that trust in them. And like same with the GM, where we can trust them that they will be able to get some sort of progress and results going. And then after maybe like 3-4 years, then you say, okay, this hasn't worked. We've given him more than enough time. Now we should look somewhere else.
I could definitely tell you that they're putting their faith into Ralph Kruger 100% for the fact that he was hired by Jason Botterill, and when Botterill was released, Kruger did stay. I mean, it would have probably looked really bad had they let Kruger go because he was only here for a short time, but I do think they're putting their faith in him. But I can say this 100%. They are putting their faith into Kevin Adams as general manager, because Kevin Adams has been a part of the Sabres organization in so many different capacities over the past. I think he's been with the organization for at least 8 years, if not a little longer. I mean, he started off with the business aspect. He helped build up Harbor Center from nothing. He was involved with the Academy of Hockey. He then moved over to the Sabres organization. I don't remember what exactly he did. I think it was something with the financial. But that's all that everybody talked about when Kevin Adams was hired, was the fact that the Pegulas had literally been grooming this guy for so long to take this position. So they do have 100% faith in Adams. And I think that even if things are rough over the next 2-3 years, he's going to get time to work it out. And I do like the things that he's already done. I really do.
Okay.
I think I want to touch quickly on what Zach said about bringing a coach in that has had prior success. I mean, look at the Sabres bringing in Dan Bilesma. They thought, I mean, Dan Bilesma put up how many great numbers in Pittsburgh? I think they won a cup. I think at least one cup. I know, maybe two.
Two.
You know, I know he did. I mean, he did everything right there. I mean, but also the thing is, the talent level there compared to what the Sabres had at that time were completely different. I mean, yes, they did have Ryan O'Reilly. I think they had Kane at that point. They had Eichel already. I mean, they had the players, but I'm sorry, but Eichel and O'Reilly is your 1-2 compared to Malkin Crosby. I'm taking Malkin and Crosby every day of the week, twice on Sundays. I just think that that's the best option. I mean, and they had, who was their goalie? I can't even think of our goalie at that time. I mean, I know we had, then in Pittsburgh, they have Marc-Andre Fleury.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that, like Zach said, definitely is, the Sabres have definitely done it worked for them. We're going to grab their coach, and then they'll have nothing. I think Bilesma had a career, awful year for Pittsburgh the year he got canned. I think his year was terrible. And he comes here, and, you know, it's water on the bridge now, but it was more so of, did Eichel get along with Bilesma? Was that the biggest? That was the biggest talk. Was, you know, Eichel didn't want it to be Bilesma the coach. He didn't like him. A year and a half or 2 seasons later, he's gone. So
Right,
it's tough. It really is. I think, like Matt said as well, Adams and Kruger, I believe in them a little more than I had the past couple of years. I think we finally have a good GM and coach relationship. And maybe it'll be similar to the Bean McDermott relationship. We'll get something going. We'll have a click, and we'll go somewhere. I mean, I you know, it's really just a crapshoot sometimes especially with a 56-game season. Anyone can get in. Top 4 teams from every division get in. You could have a hot streak in the middle of the season where you win 12 games or 13 games, or you take points out of 17 straight games. That's 17 points that you grabbed on somebody else, including wins. I mean, that's just huge. So if they can sneak into the 4th spot, I think they have a deep enough team this year that they can get from the playoffs. I mean, it just depends on how they play and how they mesh as a team. And I think they're kind of improving on that.
I mean, just looking at the division they're in to finish top 4, it's definitely not going to be pretty. You got Washington and Philly, who are probably the clear top favorites in this division. You've got Boston, who's off to a rough start. I mean, you're missing Pasternak. I believe Marchand is still sidelined for right now. They lost Torrey Krug this offseason. Tuukka Rask may not be 100% after missing the playoffs last year. So you got to watch out for them. You have the Islanders, who are a really good, young, upcoming team. You got Pittsburgh, who you can never count out. I know everybody's kind of talking about this.
Right.
This year may be the falling of the kingdom in Pittsburgh between Crosby and Malkin and everybody else that's been there, because everybody's aging, but you can't ever count them out. New Jersey is a very young team yet, a lot younger than us. And then you got the Rangers, who they're not looking good right now, but they've got a lot of talent on that team.
Very true. So I guess then, if we want to
do we want to switch topics, or
I was going to say, if you want to transition just to talk a little bit about the game last night, how we think it went, things that, like, positives and negatives, just recap of the goals. So obviously Eric Stahl started out the scoring. Was it Olofsson that assisted him?
Yeah, it was Olofsson who stripped, I believe it was Chara behind the net.
Yeah, I believe you're right. Because I know Chara had a couple giveaways and a couple bad plays in that game. So I probably should have watched the goals. I didn't watch the highlights yet. But I listened to the broadcast, so I at least know who scored and when they scored. So for you guys that saw the goals or watched the game, how was it?
Just to start off with the Eric Stahl goal. I mean, it wasn't a pretty goal or anything. It wasn't like Eric Stahl coming down the wing and just sniping an absolute beauty, bar down, something like that. It was a feed out front. I think the goaltender was a little bit out of position because the puck, I don't even think it left the ice. If it did, it wasn't much. It kind of just tucked in on the far side. But those are the types of goals that I think are going to be a little bit more common for Eric Stahl this year if he's going to be productive. I mean, the guy is 36 years old already, I believe. Yeah. So, I mean, he's not, prime Carolina Hurricanes Eric Stahl anymore. He's more or less here for the leadership and growth of players and to help fill a desperate need at second line center because he can still handle those because he played that in Minnesota. But those are the type of goals, like I said, that he's going to get. I don't think he's going to pot, 20 goals this year. I think 15 is probably his ceiling. But that's what you need on this team. You need scoring throughout the lineup, and Stahl's a guy that helps provide that.
So then
I think that
obviously,
Stahl,
oh, yep, go ahead.
I think that Stahl goal was definitely a kind of like a monkey off the back feeling.
100%.
Yeah.
He got his first one, and I feel like it was definitely something like, gets the monkey off the back and maybe we'll start going a little bit quicker. Stahl looks a little slow, but he's also 36 years old. People thought that Stahl coming in here was going to be, like you said, Matt, Carolina prime Stahl, and it's just not going to happen. It's just not like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, and I was going to say, too, obviously earlier I touched up a little bit on the chances we missed. Just those simple little goals in front are the ones that we're going to have to score all season long, and it doesn't matter who gets them or how they go in, but we just need to make sure that those free chances in front of the net, where there's probably 75-80% chance that we do score it, we have to score it, especially if we're going to try and make a playoff push, albeit in the fourth spot or not.
Right.
The dirty goals. Those are the ones that count the most, the dirty goals.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
You work hard for what you get.
Exactly.
I think that's the biggest thing that's been missing on this team for the past several years. I mean, we've brought in guys that have world-class talent and, just the example of last year bringing in Jeff Skinner. I mean, everybody thought that with the roster we had last year, and it really wasn't a bad roster on paper. But everybody kind of thought, oh my God, Jeff Skinner's here now. He's the missing link. He's going to help us get into the playoffs. And the thing is, Jeff scored 40 goals and we still missed. We were still towards the bottom of the league. And it's because you had production out of that one line. You got to get continuous throughout the lineup production.
Yeah. So then after that,
Sheehan, right?
Backstrom scored and then Dowd in the second period, 4 minutes in. Mm-hmm. And then how about that Cousins goal though?
Oh,
pickpockets the man right at mid ice, takes it right across the blue line.
NHL goal.
Snipes it across right in top left corner. That one I did watch. That was
it was beautiful. I mean, I've seen him score so many goals like that, and just watching his highlights out of Lethbridge, and it's honestly a really encouraging sign to see that so early in his NHL career. If he can translate his game to that at the NHL level, he's going to be something special.
Yeah, and you saw how much it meant to him. I mean, he was smiling, celebrating with the teammates in the corner, and then I think the announcers made a comment. They're like, "Oh man, he's still smiling even when he went on the bench and whatnot." So
yeah,
he's happy to get that first goal, and I think it'll be a big confidence booster for him.
It's a great feeling.
100%. Did we know who got the assist on that one? Who was that?
It was unassisted because he stripped the defender.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah. So then after that, just under 3 minutes later, Vrana scores. And then I was listening to the broadcast, so I was like, how are we going to score and then give up another goal right then and there? But then right after he scored, I believe it was Curtis Lazar having a little tickle fight with Chara in the corner.
Yeah.
And the puck basically kind of just flopped in the middle for a free shot from Riley Sheehan, and third goal right there. It says it was assisted by Lazar and Skinner, but the way they were talking about it on the broadcast, I thought it would have been unassisted, the way they were kind of playing with it.
They ended up crediting Lazar with an assist. I don't know that. Oh, Skinner did get it too. So
like I said, I got to go watch it still, but from the sound of it on the broadcast, it just sounded like it was like Chara had a terrible game. Like he was just giving the puck away. He was kind of forgetting assignments and forgetting the important spots to be. And a couple of the times it led to goals. So, I mean,
let's not forget something with Zdeno Chara here. The guy is 44 years old.
Yeah.
He did just walk away from a championship caliber team in Boston because I think that the Bruins kind of knew he's coming towards the end of his line. He actually, I believe he was scratched a little bit towards the end of his career in Boston. And, he's not a spring chicken anymore. He's not the same as Zdeno Chara.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So from there, then obviously, I think Ristolainen got a penalty with like a minute left in regular time. So then we had to start overtime at a 4-on-3. From the sound of it, it sounded like the Sabres actually dealt with the pressure relatively well to not prevent or to not let a goal in. Olmark, I think, made a few really good saves in overtime, especially.
Yeah.
Kind of sounded like he was the main man keeping it in. But I noticed a few things that the announcers kept saying was that every time Eichel had a chance to score, he didn't take the shot and he looked to make the play and pass it off to somebody instead. So it sounds like not only were there a few missed chances in the normal 3 periods, but it also sounded like at times when certain Sabres could have taken the shot and possibly scored, they didn't try and do anything fancy, but they decided to make the pass rather than take the shot. And I think that kind of cost them in this game, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, Eichel having what? I think he's got 6 of 6 currently. He has no goals. I mean, Eichel is a pure goal scorer. I mean, he's not often known as his playmaking ability. He's got beautiful hands, but he's got a shot that can go toe to toe with any of them in the league. And there's a bunch of games I've watched this year, and I mean, we're 5 games in, and we're watching Jack Eichel pass the puck over shoot, and at times you're like 2-on-1, you're like, Jack, pass it, and there was times where he'd just rip it and go in, whatever, no big deal. A goal's a goal, and that's the way they gotta look at it. But Eichel, come on, let's be more selfish here, Jack. Come on now, we're waiting on you to just rip it, because it's just his shot is like no other, and it's just, I think yesterday Washington played Vitek Vanacek. He's played 10 games in the NHL. The goalie's new. He's fresh. Just start shooting. Come on, guys. He's a rookie.
Yeah, and I think by now, 5 games in, I'm sure a lot of his teammates have noticed, okay, it's great that he's trying to be a lot less unselfish, but I feel like now his teammates are going to start saying, hey, don't be afraid to be more selfish and start taking that shots. And, you got to find that balance, obviously, because nobody likes a selfish teammate. But at the same time, if your teammates know and believe in what you can do, then they'll be all right with it if you decide to take those 1 or 2 extra shots that, yeah, you could have passed it, but if you're going to take the shot because you have a good position, then just go for it.
I think I've noticed a lot of the defensemen leaning towards the pass more so than Eichel's shot. I think they've kind of grabbed on a hold of that Eichel's passing more. I know I watched the Philly game that I think it was Eichel and Skinner on a 2-on-1, and I know the defenseman leaned towards Skinner to block the pass. And I think Skinner got a couple chances. Nothing went in, but it's like Eichel's got a great shot. He's got to start taking shots, and he's one of those guys that's going to put up. He's similar to Ovechkin. They love to score. They love to shoot. I'm okay with him taking 200 shots a year if he scores 40 goals. I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Agreed completely. So then nobody ended up scoring in overtime, so we went to a shootout. Ullmark made a fairly decent save on Oshie, and then I believe Eichel and Backstrom both hit the post, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And then Hall, Vrana, Cousins, and Reinhart ended up missing. I believe Washington shot first, though, however, so Carlson got the goal, and that forced us to score. I'm pretty sure Reinhart was close to scoring. I'm pretty sure his shot kind of came off of Vanacek, but I think it ended up just plopping in front of him rather than almost rolling into the net.
I think personally, when you go into, what was that, 4 or 5 rounds yesterday?
4 rounds, yeah.
I think, I mean, a lot of them, Eichel, Backstrom both walked in, just shot. And I know, who shot first?
Oshie
shot first. I mean, they make their moves and stuff like that. I think after a while, after you get through 3-4 shooters, and I believe John Carlson scored 5-hole on that, you got to shoot 5-hole.
Yeah.
These goalies are expecting the moves to be made. They're expecting just coming in and ripping, just shoot 5-hole. I think that's your best option.
Yeah, and honestly, I know obviously I haven't followed as much hockey in the past few years, but I do know that TJ Oshie is a pretty good shootout player. And I think that after seeing him get stuffed on the very first shot, I don't know how much confidence that instilled in the Sabres, but I feel like after seeing a player as prolific as him in the shootout get saved, I feel like you got to capitalize on those chances. And like you said, like, don't be fancy about it. Just go for a shot where you think you have a pretty good chance of scoring, especially if you know it's on a newer goalie, and just take the shot and hope it goes in, because the more fancy you try and get, then the more risk there is to either get stuffed or you just mess up on the play completely.
Yeah, I mean, John Carlson's a defenseman. I mean, he's not like he is Alex Ovechkin or Evgeny Kuznetsov, who both were out yesterday. John Carlson's a defenseman who has a lot of offensive ability. Don't get me wrong, he's not like a defensive-minded player, but he walked in, he knew where he was shooting, he picked the spot the entire way through. He shot 5-hole and Ullmark just wasn't there, and that was the biggest problem with that. And like you said, that you got to pick a spot, and Eichel did that. Eichel went in, picked his spot. Unfortunately, hit the post, but the same could be said about Backstrom. He walked in, took a shot, and hit the post again. So
I think that when you get into a shootout in the NHL, you guys kind of touched on this, but less is more. As Nick said, going 5-hole, it's something that is probably going to work a lot more than it is in the regular game, because when you're in the shootout, it's not, you would think it's less pressure on a goaltender because there's not 5 guys on the ice that can shoot at you at different times and different angles and things like that. But it is a lot more pressure. It's just you and the goal scorer, and all they have to do is make a move and beat you. So it gets into the goaltender's head a little bit more. So less is more. And I think that the Sabres have struggled with that a lot the past few years. They're trying to do too much. They're trying to make the fancy move, the highlight reel, shootout goal. Just tuck it in. Just tuck it in.
Yeah.
So I guess Rat, do you want to touch on?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Rat, do you want to touch on who we thought should have started the season for the Sabres? Do you want to do all lines or rosters? Yeah.
I'm actually was hoping we would move to that next. I don't know who wants to start
touch on that, and then obviously we'll after the roster we'll touch on the big trade that just happened this morning. We'll talk a little bit about that as well after.
So I guess I could start. I just got to ask though. So who is our starting line? Who's our first line? Typically,
it's been
I know it can change.
Paul Eichel, and now it's Reinhart.
Okay, so I'm not sure how comparable hockey is to soccer, and soccer is my primary sport, so I try and relate a lot of other sports to that. So I'm not sure how effective it is, but obviously you don't want all your superstars on one line, because then you're going to have like zero production from all the other lines. But do you think if Eichel was the only superstar in the front 3 on his line, do you think it would possibly benefit the Sabres if they had someone like, I mean, obviously you brought Stahl in for experience to be on the lower lines and whatnot, because what is he on, like the third line or something?
Second line center.
So like, would it benefit the Sabres more if they possibly dropped someone like Taylor Hall or Jeff Skinner down to like the third line to play with maybe some of those like average players or maybe slightly underdeveloped players? Because then if they have the ability to score goals and make plays, then surely if they're playing with other people that maybe don't have that confidence in themselves, that they can bring it out of them. So then if those players see like, oh, this guy's holding himself to high standards, he's playing well, we got to do something to give this guy some help. Like, I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
You're absolutely right. They've been trying to do that for a while, spreading out the offense. They have not found the right combinations yet. And it's funny that you bring up a guy like Jeff Skinner, because I'm sure you didn't realize this, but Jeff Skinner is actually playing on the fourth line right now. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're trying to spread out offense. There's a disconnect between Jeff Skinner and Ralph Kruger right now, and Kruger is trying to get Skinner to play by their quote principles that apparently he's not playing by, which I don't see, because Jeff Skinner has been one of the best players on the ice every night for the Sabres, in my opinion. He's just not getting the production on the line. That's all. But I do think that it would be a lot more beneficial to the team to spread everyone out.
Okay, so then, yeah, I guess if you want to just give who you think should have started the season then, and then Nick, you can go, and Tyler or I can go last then.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll stay out of this one.
Okay. Sounds good, man.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so I guess going on what my lineup would have been at the end of camp, I would have done Skinner, Eichel, Olofsson. Skinner needs to be with a reliable center. There's a reason that he scored 40 goals on Jack's wing. You want to get the most out of that contract and not waste $9 million a year. I think he's got to play with Jack. Olofsson, I was skeptical to start the year. I'm not going to lie. In these past 5 games, I know it's only been 5, but he's kind of changed my opinion. I didn't see him as a player that could really carry his own weight, that could drive his own play, but he's done a pretty good job of doing that on that second line with Eric Stahl. He's actually been one of the leaders on that line, if I'm not, not stretching it too far. My second line, I think I would have done Taylor Hall, Eric Stahl, and Sam Reinhart. Hall, I get it. Everybody wants to see Hall with Eichel, but you can do that on the power play. You can put all the superstars in the power play you want, but I do think that having a veteran guy at center like Eric Stahl, who's not as quick as he used to be, having a star player like Taylor Hall and a very intelligent but not as fast player and Sam Reinhart on that line would do wonders for the Sabres. Third line, I would do Tage Thompson. I do think that he deserves a spot on this roster. I think that he's a really good player. I absolutely love the hard work that Tage Thompson put in. They said he gained over 25 pounds in the offseason, which is insanely hard to do. And after dealing with a shoulder injury that put him out for 6 months, it's a really good sign. I do think he's still got a lot of potential, and I'm glad they signed him to that 3-year deal, because it's not high salary. It's not really high risk. He can walk after that if it really doesn't work out, but I do think that he's a good player. Cody Eakin, really good veteran third line center to have. He's probably not going to get you a lot of points. Everybody's trying to compare him to the, Winnipeg Cody Eakin, of 3-4 years ago. And I'm sorry, he's not going to be that again. He's not going to score 20 goals for you. You'll be lucky to sneak 10 out of him. And then to have Dylan Cousins on that line, I think would be really beneficial, because you've got it's hard to put Cousins in a wrong position here because of the veteran centers that they brought in. But I do think that playing with Eakin to start was a good move, and he actually did get bumped up last night to playing with Eric Stahl, which I love. I was hoping to see that by the end of the season. I just didn't think it would happen this quick. But he's obviously showing the coaching staff something that warrants him to go up to the second line. And then my fourth line, I would have done Curtis Lazar. If you know me, you know I love Curtis Lazar. I love the way that he plays the game. I think that he is very overlooked, being a short player and being a player that was drafted in the first round and was a captain of Canada's World Junior team. And he got a bad rap playing in Ottawa. And he's trying to revive his career now in Buffalo. And I think he's done an excellent job of it. I love the way he plays. He's not afraid of anything. He gets to the dirty areas and he creates a lot of chances for his teammates. Okposo on the wing, but obviously he's now on IR, so I would have Riley Sheehan in his place.
He's playing tomorrow.
What's that?
Tomorrow.
Really?
He's playing tomorrow, Okposo. He's coming back tomorrow. Yep.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay. So
Go ahead.
I
just
would
wanted to
slot
touch
him
on
back
that
in
real
the
quick.
lineup. And then Ruotsalainen I would have as my fourth line center. And I'm honestly really disappointed that he didn't make the team. And I'm upset that he's going to Rochester right now because if I'm not mistaken, Arttu Ruotsalainen's 25 years old. If he's not 25, he's 24. He's been playing in the SHL for quite some time. He is a very talented player. He's got a lot of skill. And another player that is just like Curtis Lazar, he's a bit undersized for an NHL player. But it's not the 1990s NHL anymore. You can get away with being short in the NHL. You just look at Cole Caulfield and how highly they're touting this kid, and he is only 5'7". But he's a natural goal scorer because you don't have enforcers anymore. You don't have goons on the ice that are just looking to take out bodies anymore. And I think Ruotsalainen is a guy that should have been called up with the Okposo injury, and he didn't. And then I just wanted to touch on the D pairs and the taxi squad. They have Tobias Rieder right now in the taxi squad. I'm fine with that. I don't think he should play every game, but every now and then I'm fine with him playing. Casey Middlestat. Nick knows this. I could get into a whole can of worms when it comes to Casey Middlestat and what I think that he should be doing and all this. And I'm not going to dive into that because I'll be here for 30 minutes talking about it, but I'm not happy with Casey Middlestat's development right now. I'm not happy with the steps that he's taken. And I think being on the taxi squad is a little bit of a wake-up call for him, and he needs to take it very seriously because they're not even sending him to Rochester to play games. I mean, if I were Casey Middlestat right now, I would be reading this as, okay, they weren't happy with me even after they sent me down, which I should have dominated at the AHL level. So now they want me to come practice with the team and learn from all these veteran players that they've added to the roster, but then sit in the press box and watch and take it in and learn and apply that to myself. And if he doesn't do that this year, then I think that there's a big issue that they have to really have a tough conversation about with Casey Middlestat. And then obviously Jack Quinn, he's the exception. I think that this is a really good opportunity for Jack Quinn. Taking the Sabres are kind of I don't want to say abusing, but they're taking advantage of these COVID rules with the taxi squad. Jack Quinn doesn't have anywhere to play. The OHL is shut down. He's not going to go to Europe and play. He's not committed to a college. Why stick him in the AHL when you can have him up at the NHL level around guys like Jack Eichel, Taylor Hall, Eric Stahl, learning from them and practicing with them every day. And then next year he can take that back with him to Ottawa because I'm sure he's going to go back next year. And then hopefully make a jump to the NHL a little bit sooner than we all thought. And then we touched on the D pairs. I think I would do Dowling with Miller, Montour with Yoki Harju, and Bristow and McCabe.
And then I'm assuming your goalies are Olmark and Hutton. Is that correct?
Yeah, they are. I mean, there's really you don't have much of a choice with them. I'm not playing Jonas Johansson, and as much as I think Dustin Tokarski could handle a couple NHL games, I think that if he's in between the pipes, you're probably going to lose that game.
How long is
I would
Hutton for? Because he just has a upper body injury now, doesn't he?
Hutton, it's probably going to be hard to put a timetable on him because it's I'm assuming it's a concussion injury, and they're going to have to go through protocol with that. And I mean, concussions, you never know. It could be a couple of days, could be a week, could be 2 months. You never know.
Right.
So
I guess I'll go.
yeah.
I'd obviously start my first line with I think I would like to see I'm a little bit different compared to Matt on the Middlestead thing. I'm a huge fan of Middlestead. I like him. I think he can get going eventually. I just think he needs the right players. I would do Middlestead, Eichel, and Reinhart. I'd like to get that connection back together. I think that Reinhart plays really well with Eichel, and I think that you slot him in with Middlestead. I think that he can become a really good player. I think Skinner scored 40 goals with those two guys. I mean, you really can't bend it either way. I mean, there's a lot of good goal scorers on the team, a lot of guys that want to shoot the puck, and I think that Middlestead would teach him to become a playmaker. You can't shoot the puck all the time. So that would be my first line. My second line would probably be I would like to see Hall, Stahl, and Skinner. I think that'd be pretty cool to see. I mean, I guess you could consider them the old man line because they're probably the oldest on the team. I just think Skinner and Stahl together would be your best option. I think that
you need that
Skinner and Hall
connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Skinner and Hall have the quickness that can go and get the puck. Skinner's not afraid to get in the dirty areas. I mean, you could see him now play on the fourth line. He wants to go in the dirty areas. He wants to get the puck out. And that's just how he wants to play. That's what I would do. My third line, I probably would do Thompson, Cousins, and Eakin. Not much different from Matt's. I would probably be the same. Probably would play Eakin in the center and then have Cousins play one of Thompson, just because I think Cousins is their best. You could teach him. He knows how to play center. You don't need to teach him that right now. Teach him the wing, and then when he feels more comfortable in the NHL, he could play center. And I think that option for them right now gives them more. I mean, they have a lot of centers on this team right now. It gives them a lot of different options, a lot of different looks. And then my fourth line, not much changing. I mean, going into the season, I would have Girgensons as my center on that fourth line. Obviously, Girgensons is out for the season, so he's not going to be playing. So I would have done Girgensons and Okposo, but with Girgensons out, I would put Asplund on the wing, and I would put Lazar in your center. I think Asplund definitely deserves a shot. I think he played really well last year. I think that he's a quality player. He plays in the AHL. He played a couple of games. He played a bunch of games last year. I know you love Ristolainen, Matt. I'm not knocking on him at all. I looked him up. He's only 23. So okay. I would prefer him to play a full season because he sat last year in Sweden. So I would prefer him to play in Rochester, get used to the American ice, and then kind of bring him up next year and see what we can do. The taxi squad, I guess Reeder, Quinn, Uchon Quinn, and then Shan. That's what I would really do pretty much. And then my defense is pretty much spoken for. I like the Risto-McCabe combination. I think they would be number 2 on my pairing. I like Dahlin. I love him a lot. I don't know. Montour hasn't looked great with him this year. For probably Dahlin and Montour, they haven't looked with Dahlin and Miller, and then probably Yoki Haru and Montour's line, and then goalies are spoken for. So that's really about it. And then Matt Irwin scratch as well. It's interesting to see what they got. I mean, I think they really advanced on their forward depth, and their defensive depth has now kind of took a step back, I believe. I mean, last year, we all don't like Bogosian sometimes, but Bogosian has proved that he can still play in the NHL. He played with Tampa in the playoffs, and he did play a pretty average. Didn't ask you to do too much, and now he's in Toronto playing with he's playing with Dermott, and he's playing penalty kill and low team minutes, and that's what you ask him for Bogosian. And he signed a 1-year deal, like $1.25 million. So you ask him Bogosian.
I think that just really quickly on your Bogosian. Just really quickly on your Bogosian, I think he did get a bad rap in Buffalo. I myself gave him a bad rap sometimes, but I think for me it was a thing of he needed a change of scenery. He just needed to get out of Buffalo because it wasn't doing him any good here. He couldn't stay healthy. He couldn't make the lineup, and I don't think he's a terrible defenseman by any means. I just think that, like I said, it was one of those things where it's a change of scenery, and I think I'm starting to head down that road with Laine. You probably know that, but again, I won't open that.
How could you trade a man with that nice of facial hair and a haircut?
Right? It's
that dude
fear
looks
of the
like the
beard.
Tsar of Austria, bro.
It's fear of the beard. He just keeps snacks in there for on the bench.
So I want to talk about Bogosian real quick, and then I'll send it over to Zach.
All right.
Bogosian, I believe, played in Peterborough in the OHL, had a lot of offensive upside, and I think that's what the Sabres traded for. He was a first-round pick. And I compare him to a lot, obviously forward and defense are different, but Sam Bennett was a top 10 pick. He was a very good scorer in the OHL. I think he played the WHL, I believe. He comes to Calgary and he has to switch his game entirely up. He plays a grinder through to be forward, third line minutes in Calgary. That's what he has to do, and that's what Bogosian had to do, was switch his game up. So, Zach, you can take it away, man.
All right, so obviously I'm not as well-versed in the lines as you two. So I kind of just made this up literally about 4 seconds ago. But I feel like this would play the best on NHL if I was to control them in an all-pro career. So these are the lineups I would go with. So I think similar to Matt, I would have Olofsson, Eichel, and Reinhart on the first line. Obviously, we've seen Olofsson's goal-scoring abilities, and I think with Eichel and Reinhart on the same lineup as him, I think that would give him a lot of room to grow. And I mean, if Eichel's going to be a lot more unselfish this season, then if Olofsson can get firing again, then I think that would be a great way to get production out of all three players. For the second line, I would have Skinner, Stahl, and Hall together. I don't really know. It just seems like a cool line. You guys can touch on my opinions afterwards because you know a little more.
That was actually a line that they talked about. Some people actually projected that lineup before the year.
Okay. So yeah,
that's what I picked, so I'm cool with it.
Feel free to chime in, talk about it as soon as I'm done.
What website you reading this off of?
So I just want to ask one thing. So is the taxi squad basically like the substitutes bench? Like you use them when you need them, other times they just sit?
They're it's really meant for if a player comes down with COVID-19 symptoms, so they can plug them in. It's almost like a healthy scratch, but they have to go through certain different steps to get them into the game than just saying, okay, we're going to scratch Curtis Lazar tonight, send him to the taxi squad. Like, yeah, there's a certain process you go through, but it's pretty much the same idea.
Okay. So for the third line, I had Riley Sheehan, Dylan Cousins, and Kyle Poso, barring he was like healthy to start the season. Mm-hmm. And then for the fourth line, I had Tage Thompson, Reeder, and Curtis Lazar. And then for the D pairings, I think both of you said Dahlin and Miller together. Yeah, I like that one as well, especially with what you told me at the beginning. If Dahlin's a lot more offensively creative than some of the other defensemen we have, then he definitely needs someone who's just going to be a rock and is totally fine with just sitting back a little bit and letting him do his own thing. I mean, it works the same way in soccer. If you got one dude who loves and pass it to the offenseman, if there's another defender that's just a pure defender, he's totally fine with just sitting back and letting everyone else do the thing. So second pairing I had was McCabe and Ristolainen, just purely based off of what else you had told me at the beginning. If McCabe has a lot more defensive awareness and he knows where he's supposed to be at relatively most of the time, then if Risto is so offensive minded and he's going to make those mistakes, then at least McCabe can probably make up for like 20-30% of those mistakes and, you know, kind of hold it down a little bit. And then third pairing is Montour and Yoki Haru. And then goalies, obviously, Ullmark and Hutton.
Okay. I actually
I mean, yeah, I'm on board on what he had.
Yeah, I don't see any major issues with that at all.
Beast. Be a promo here.
Because I mean, Thompson. I mean, Thompson's coming off a really bad shoulder injury at age, I think he's like 23 years old. I mean, that's really tough. And I think that's also part of the reason why Kruger's sitting him a little bit, because he wants to rest him. And, if he plays all 56 games, I mean, which he's not going to, but those back-to-back games, and he plays a tough style game. He hits, he goes and gets the puck out of the down low and stuff. I mean, you can't do that with a banged up shoulder. So I agree with the fourth line. I liked all the lines. I mean, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll switch into the Pierre-Luc Dubois and Patrik Laine trade.
That was definitely something I wanted to touch on.
Yeah, that's next on the list.
Else can start it off, because I feel like I've been doing all the talking.
Yeah, I definitely had the details pulled up, but I think I lost the Instagram post.
You're talking about what the trade was?
Here we go. I got it. All right. So yeah, I guess I can start off. So it's Pierre-Luc Dubois and a 2022 third round pick going to the Winnipeg going to the Winnipeg Jets for Patrik Laine and Jack Roslovic. I don't know if there's anything else in there. This is just like
it's just Roslovic, Laine for Dubois in the third.
So yeah, so I don't know how many of you guys watch Bar Down. I know Matt, you know of it. Nick, you might know of it as well. But I know they were kind of touching on this over the past couple days, especially because I know Jesse. He's a big Winnipeg fan, and he just bought a Laine jersey, and now he just got traded. And everyone's clowning him for it. But I don't know. Like I said, I was trying to get more in touch with hockey this season, and I know this has kind of been like a swirling rumor throughout the entire offseason and like the start of this season that Dubois wasn't really too happy in Columbus. So I don't know like what really involved the other parts of this deal. So was Laine kind of like unsettled in Winnipeg too, or did they just see him as his contract wasn't really worth it with him and they kind of they thought it'd be a good swap, or what's going on here?
I'm sure Nick would know best, because he is a big Laine fan. The only thing that I know of as far as Laine goes is I joked about it with Nick this morning. There was the issues with Laine playing too many video games. I believe it was last year. He got in a little bit of hot water with Paul Maurice, but I don't think that there was any real issues with him in Winnipeg. I don't know, Nick. What do you think?
I know that Laine was disgruntled with Winnipeg. It wasn't so much of it wasn't like a Pierre-Luc Dubois situation where Dubois wanted out and like that's what he wanted to be traded, and that was all he wanted. I know that Laine wasn't exactly happy with Winnipeg. I don't know if it. I know the Fortnite thing was a big thing, that he was playing video games all night and missing practice and stuff like that. I know his agent touched on a little. I know they don't want to really get that out, but I believe Laine is also a pending free agent after this season. So I think it's either this season or next season. He comes up for a contract, so that's a huge thing. Laine is like a phenomenal goal scorer. Like, just there's not much better than him. He's one of those guys that is he a free agent this year?
I'm still trying to find. I think he is.
That's fine. I believe he is as well, and I think that's another issue why they wanted to trade. I mean, like most teams would rather trade a player and get something out of it instead of losing him. I mean, that's the biggest thing that I've noticed. Dubois wanted out. Laine wasn't exactly happy. Columbus acquired Max Domi this offseason.
Yeah, it's a 2-year deal that's up at the end of this year, but it's not a UFA. He's an RFA.
So they hold his rights. That's why I think that was a big thing why Laine was a high price, was because you're trading for a guy who even necessarily you have his rights to him after the fact. And Dubois had a great contract. I mean, although it's short term, 2 years, they got him on a steal. I mean, Pierre-Luc Dubois, I think, is the most underrated centers in the NHL. He hits, he scores, he's a great playmaker. He just does it all. He's a two-way game. I mean, there's not much better than him. And I just, I wish that every team could have Pierre-Luc Dubois. I mean, as a Tampa fan and as a Buffalo fan, I wish the Sabres would have went after him. I would have gave him Middlestat and something else for him because
I
he's just
100% would have been in. 100%. I just don't think it would have been possible with the cap.
It's hard not to be in on him. Oh, for sure. That's the biggest problem right now.
So,
but
I gotta ask.
It should be interesting.
Yeah. So I gotta ask. Panarin went to the Rangers. Was it last season? Or it was 2 seasons ago.
It would be 2 seasons now.
Yeah. So, that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the same year that Columbus had a good playoff push, right?
Yeah, they got past the first round for the first time.
So in that same year, I know Panarin was playing very well. Was he also playing pretty well? Like, has he built up a decent stock for himself over the last couple of years? And like, would you say this trade is pretty fair, or would you say it's kind of lopsided towards one side or the other?
I see. I know me and Nick are going to disagree on it, but I do think that it's relatively fair. No, I just know because we talked about it already, but I think it's relatively fair just for the fact that, like you said, Pierre-Luc Dubois is extremely underrated. He's going to be a very good center for a very long time, but he just doesn't get talked about. And I don't know if it's because he plays for Columbus or what the deal is, but he has always been one of the players that I've always really liked in the NHL. I'm going to give the edge in the trade definitely to Columbus because you're getting Patrik Laine, who I get it. There's concerns with them. As Nick said, he literally is one of the best goal scorers in the NHL, but that's when he's on. So he has to be on. He's a little streaky, like Skinner can be sometimes, but if he figures that out, look out because it's Alex Ovechkin 2.0 with him. And Columbus ended up getting Jack Roslovic out of it. Jack Roslovic's a great center. I was when the Sabres had the rumors out that they were possibly looking at Nikolai Ehlers or dealing Ristolainen to Winnipeg, Roslovic was a guy that I wanted in the return. I didn't care if we had to throw in a first-round pick for him or what the deal was. Roslovic is always a player that I've always liked. He's a second-line center. He can play third line. He can play the wing. He can do it all.
Yeah, and I just looked it up. I did not know that both of them are 22 years old. I thought they were like mid-turning to late 20s. Like I thought they were way further in their career than they are.
No, they're both extremely young.
So I'm going to take the other side of the argument, not just because I like argue with Matt, but also because I think it just makes the most sense. Laine and Dubois were 2 and 3 draft. I mean, Matthews was 1, the clear-cut first overall pick. Laine is a perennial. I mean, there's not much to break that down. And Dubois, he is a all-around great forward, just a center. He just plays phenomenal. He can play the penalty kill for you, power play. He can log you like high teens to 20 minutes a game, and he's just a workhorse. He's a workhorse. I think that Winnipeg wins this trade, not because I love Patrik Laine. Patrik Laine is one of my favorite players. I think Winnipeg wins it because Laine was disgruntled. I don't think Winnipeg management was ideally happy with him. Roslovic was not going to play with Winnipeg this year. He already said that. And so you lose a player that wasn't going to play for you and a player who was not too happy with the team. Roslovic's from Columbus. I think he's from Ohio, around there. Goes home. That's where he wanted to play. He immediately signed a contract after they got traded to him. And what is the worst case scenario for Pierre-Luc Dubois in Winnipeg? He either plays with Blake Wheeler or Kyle Connor or Nikolai Ehlers. He hasn't had one of those great. I mean, he might even get Ehlers and Connor. I don't know what that breakdown is in Winnipeg. I don't know who plays with Scheifele, who doesn't. But they trade away. He actually ended up in the best situation as Dubois.
Oh, yeah.
Panarin 2 years ago leaves. Now he leaves and either gets Wheeler, Ehlers, or Kyle Connor. I just think that Winnipeg won that trade. I think that they get a third round pick, which third round picks is what it is. I think Rostock was a second round pick, so you kind of lose what you had, but a guy that wasn't going to play with you, I think it's kind of worth it.
So then I guess a question I have for both of you guys then, barring this trade, what do you think? So I'm assuming they're both probably going to start on the first or second line then. You got to feel, right? Well, are Scheifele and Wheeler both centers?
No.
Scheifele's
Okay.
the only center. So he'll play behind Scheifele.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So then I guess I kind of want to talk about both sides then. So for the Blue Jackets then, getting Laine, he'll probably play on the first line, right?
Oh, yeah.
So then what do you think their starting
100%.
first line will be then? Most nights, because obviously you said it could change a lot. Because I'm looking at the roster right now. I don't know what their starting lineup typically is. I see they got old man Mikko Koivu out here.
The roster's underwhelming.
I mean, if Matt's gonna look it up,
I was gonna say I'm looking it up right now.
I'll take it real quick if Matt's gonna look it up real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Laine is gonna play in the wing with Max Domi. He's gonna be his center. I believe they'll either play Atkinson or Gus Nyquist with him. I'm not sure which one they're gonna pick. I know Bjorkstrand's on there. He's a really good player, but he's a right winger. So I believe they go Atkinson or Nyquist. I really hope they wouldn't go Nick Foligno because I don't think he deserves to be on the first line. I think that they need a guy like Atkinson that can go and speed and get the puck for him, and then Laine can just rip it home all he wants. I think that will be Columbus's first line, and then I'll cover Winnipeg's real quick. I think he's going to play in the second line. I think that's where Dubois fits in the most. I think it's good. I think their top line right now is Connor, Scheifele, and Wheeler. And I think he'll get Ehlers. And then on that left side, maybe Brian Little, maybe Stastny. They might throw one of those centers up there to play wing because they're not going to have Little to play on their fourth line. Right. So I think what they would probably do is Stastny, Dubois, and Ehlers is going to be their second line.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I was gonna say I completely forgot that Domi was with Columbus. So I mean, that's an easy plug-in on that line. My only thing with this trade that I know, Nick, you know about it, and I think I mentioned it to Zach, but I'm just gonna say it: the issues that Laine had in Winnipeg with the missing the practices and things like that. If that continues in Columbus, things are going to get ugly very fast for Laine because they turned ugly quickly for Pierre-Luc Dubois, and he wasn't even really doing anything wrong. There was just a disconnect between him and wanting to be there, and there was a disconnect between him and John Tortorella. And I'll tell you right now, John Tortorella, great coach, very unorthodox for this typical NHL era. But if you get on his bad side, things are not going to end well for you. He is a very tough guy to play for.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Tortorella it's very, for him, it's his way or the highway. He is not a player's coach, as they like to put it. I compare him a lot to Joe Quenneville. Quenneville's another coach, or John Quenneville. He is it's what's interest for them to win, and that's what Florida earlier this year was going to scratch Keith Yandel. Keith Yandel had like an Ironman streak, and they're going to sit him because Quenneville thought that it was the best chance to win. That's where I think Tortorella and Laine could have problems, and we'll see how that goes. I think mostly what helps Laine is he is in the weakest division in the NHL.
Yeah.
They have Tampa. They have Dallas are probably your two front runners.
Right.
Nashville's in there. But then the bottom is like Chicago, Detroit,
Carolina's in
just
there.
garbage teams. And yeah, I mean just rough goaltending that Laine can just pick apart if he gets caught.
Right. That's the whole thing for him, though. I've been saying that for a little while. He reminds me so much of prime Jeff Skinner, where he's extremely streaky, and I want so bad for him to figure it out and be that consistent player, because I'm telling you, if he figures that out, there's nothing stopping this kid from scoring 50 to even 60 goals a year if it's a full 82 game season. Yeah. All right. So contender or
Jinx,
pretender?
knock on wood. Yeah, so I guess we can move on to the next topic then. Contender.
Okay, so I was figuring I have all the divisions right here and the teams, and I'll just run through them and we can go around the table. You don't have to like give specific reason and go in depth because we'll be here forever.
Just quick predictions.
Contender or pretender or not, on whether they make the playoffs this year.
Right.
So I'll just start with the East Conference in the Discover Central Division. This has got to be an easy one. Nick, Tampa Bay.
Contender.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. Definite contender. I mean, unless they absolutely shit the bed and there's some kind of mutiny within the organization, I just feel like the way that team has gelled over the last couple of years, there's too much chemistry to let them possibly fail. Like it's almost a guarantee that they're going to make the playoffs.
Right. I completely agree. We got a full sweep on contenders here.
Yeah.
As depending on what Tyler says, but I'm sure Tyler agrees.
Big lightning guy over there.
Yeah. We got two big lightning guys here. Is he even there still?
I think he's looking up the standings or something.
Oh, he's looking up the standings right now?
He's also working on the format.
Okay. All right. I mean,
I was muted.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sitting here. Oh yeah, baby. Hear the thunder. Farmer Stanley Cup chance. Yeah.
So we got a clean sweep on the Tampa contender train.
Oh, 100%.
No questions asked.
I mean, I'm gonna say it because this will make Nick and Tyler happy. They've had a dynasty for a couple years now. They finally got the cup, but they have a dynasty rolling right now. There's no doubt. All right. Interesting one on your opinions. Columbus.
I think they will.
Contender?
Yep. I'm gonna have to agree. Okay. I think contender.
All right.
I'm gonna be the oddball because I like to be that person. I'm saying pretender. I think that Patrik Laine is not enough to get them to the playoffs. Although that division does suck, I just think there's that many teams that are a little bit better than them, and that's why I would put them as a pretender.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to agree with Nick here. I'm gonna split it. Pretender for me. They're not beating Tampa Bay. They're not better than Florida, in my opinion. They're not better than Carolina. They're not better than Nashville, and they're not better than Dallas. I think you're looking at a number 6 spot. I mean, it's hard. They're better than Detroit. Everybody in the league is going to be better than Detroit, and it looks like it's going to be the same story for Chicago this year. But I'm sorry, I can't put them ahead of anybody else right now. There's just too many. There's too many questions. I do like the goaltending. The defense seems all right, but the forward group is it's not strong enough for me to be a playoff team. Florida. Contender?
Pretender.
Oh, pretender. All right, we got a pretender.
Go ahead, Nick. I'm looking at their roster.
I think their biggest question mark is their goaltending. I think will Bobrovsky get back on track? they didn't really wow me this offseason. I think they more so booed, I think would be the proper response for them. They lose Mike Hoffman, they lose Evgeny Dadonov, and they replace them with Patrick Hornquist and Anthony Duclair. I'm not sure how that works, and I'm not sure where you're going to get that stats back or the goal scoring. I mean, Mike Hoffman's one of the a very good goal scorer. He shoots a ton, and you replaced him with Duclair and Hornquist. So I'm going to say a pretender just because there's too many question marks behind them.
Yeah, last time I heard Duclair's name, bar the one Ottawa Senators game I went to see on a sponsored trip from my school, the last time I heard his name was when he scored falling down like 2 years ago. So I'm going to agree. I think Florida's a pretender. Also, basing that opinion off of the fact that I recognize like 5 notable people, in my opinion, on their roster. I noticed they got Ekblad and Yandel on defense. And I saw Barkov, Huberdeau, and I think like 2 other people as their forwards. So I think they're pretenders. I'm sure they got underrated guys that do perform, but I just don't see them having enough firepower to get them through the season.
All right. So I think I'm going to agree. I'm going to agree that they're pretenders. I think if it was a different division, it's a different story. The one thing I do like about Florida is, yes, they did lose the big names. They lost a lot of that star power, but the thing that they have over a lot of NHL teams is they have a ton of depth. They have a lot of depth on that roster, a lot of guys that can play different positions. I think, like you said, if it wasn't for the goaltending, I think if the goaltending was a little bit better and we were 100% that it's going to be, Bobrovsky of 3-4 years ago, I'm going contender for him. But with Carolina, Tampa, Nashville, Dallas, I don't see them being better than them. I see them being just on the outside this year.
But they have hope and will to win.
They've got process.
Yeah.
You got to trust
it. Process takes a long time.
All right. Next up, Carolina.
All right. I already looked at their roster, so I got that shit in my brain now. I think they are for sure contenders.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go contender as well. They have, the experience. They have the firepower behind them. There's not much. They have. I think their biggest problem, I think, currently is they have too many defensemen. I think they sit like at least 1 or 2 good defensemen every game. I think that's their biggest problem right now. So I think they can move one of those for another forward. I think they have 2 decent average goalies. I mean, Mrazek and Reimer aren't going to wow you, but they win you games, and they both have been to the playoffs. They both know how to win. They both find a way to win, and that's what I think Carolina a lot, and that's what I'm nervous about them in this division.
Mm-hmm. Tyler?
I think they will also be contenders.
All right, we got another clean sweep on the contender list.
Yes.
Nick, back to your point too. Guy that I wanted the Sabres to go after, Jake Gardner. I would be calling Carolina right now if I was Buffalo. Left shot defenseman. If you got to move a defenseman and another lower end forward, I think I'm listening. I'm trying to make a deal work.
So has the with all the COVID regulations and whatnot, has the trade deadline changed?
I think it just changed dates a little later than normal.
Okay.
Nothing else really changed with it.
Probably like 35, around 30 games into the season. I think it's probably around that area.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting one. Nashville.
Ooh, let me start this one off. All right. So I also just looked at their roster, and I'm not sure how good some of these players are, but Roman Josi is the only quality defender I see on that roster. And this leads into my point in saying, okay, obviously they had to wait a little bit, but they just got their cheeks clapped in one period by the Dallas Stars, I think last night.
The Dallas Stars were in the finals last year.
Yeah, exactly. And so this one's kind of a tough one, in part because they've only played, they played 4 games, but I don't know how well have they done in those 4 games. Let's see. They lost 7-0.
They played 2 against Dallas.
Okay, they sweep the Blue Jackets. they lost one against Carolina. Then the other one got postponed because I think Carolina also has a COVID outbreak right now. And then they lost to Dallas 7-0, and they're facing Dallas again tomorrow night. So, I mean, like, obviously it's a little tough to tell right now, but if they can consistently score three goals a night, then I feel like they'll be all right throughout the season. I mean, in the games they won 3-1 and 5-2, and even against the loss to the Hurricanes, they still got 2 goals. They just let in 4. And so I think I'm going to put them as contender, but if their defense does not step up in the next couple of weeks and kind of solidify themselves as like, hey, we can score and not let in goals, like we don't have to outscore our opponents every time, then I think they'll be all right. So I'm going to put them at contender for right now, but that defense just looks very bad.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Zach. I'm going to say they're contenders, but on the opposite of Carolina, they have 2 goalies that worry me. Pekka Rinne is on the down slope. I mean, he's like 37 years old.
Down slope.
There's some guys that can, there's some guys that can put up great, crazy numbers at that age. I mean, like there's guys like Brodeur and, Hasek and, guys that are just consistently good. Pekka Rinne has been very good over his career. I mean, he is a couple seasons away, like in the past, that he was a Vezina candidate. I mean, but it shows that they're going Saros as their starting goalie, and Saros just doesn't look like a starting goalie currently. So I think that they are contenders. I just feel like if they were in a different division, they would not be contenders even close because just how bad that division is.
Right.
Tyler?
I think they're pretenders.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Tyler here. I'm gonna say they're pretenders. It's hard for me to put them as pretenders. Zach mentioned the defense being an issue. I don't think their defense is bad. I just think that their defense is old. You've got Matthias Ekholm and Ryan Ellis, who are aging very quickly. Roman Josi. And then you added a lot of older guys. You got Matt Benning now. You got Mark Borowicki. You got Ben Harper, who's not really old, but it's old enough. I do like Dante Fabro, but I don't like the goaltending. The goaltending scares me. It's terrible. And Pekka Rinne, ever since that Stanley Cup final against Pittsburgh, it's gone completely downhill for him from there. And like you said, I don't see Saros as a starting goaltender in the NHL at all. So I'm going to go pretender here. So we got an even split on Nashville. Detroit, this should be the easiest one of the night, fellas.
I mean, obviously contender, right?
Dylan
Larkin will lead them to glory. Nah, that's a fat pretender for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't have much to say about it. I'm going to go pretender as well.
Mm-hmm.
Pretender.
Although saying that though, they do have. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they do have a lot of good young talent, right?
I wouldn't say a lot. They have some decent young talent for sure.
That aren't. They have good young talent, but they aren't playing in the NHL.
Okay, they're still developing.
Right. Correct.
Well, even some of the guys that are on the team that are young, I like them.
I mean, I like Rasmussen. I mean, that's probably one of their brighter points. I mean, their top line is their best line. That's the problem right now. I mean, I think their top line is, I believe, Pertuzzi, Larkin, and Bobby Ryan.
Yeah.
Manta's on their side, and that's all they have. That's all they have. That's their biggest problem. I mean, they have no depth anywhere.
I like Robbie Fabry. I will say that.
Yeah, but he's not gonna he is not gonna carry a second line by himself.
Oh, no.
Bro.
I just do like that move that they made. He's young and he's got some promise to him.
Oh, for sure. They've made some good trades. They made some good moves. I don't think signing Thomas Greiss was a great move.
Yeah, I see. Valtteri Filppula is back in Detroit now. How old is he now? Probably like going on 52.
Yeah. The man that never ages. He's like the new Yager.
Jesus.
You know who I want to touch on really quickly with Detroit? Guy that I loved when they drafted him, and I don't know what's going on with him. Philip Zadina. He just
he did well last year. I think the biggest problem is that they expected a lot more from him, and that just wasn't the case scenario. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, what do you want him to do when he's playing, low teen minutes and he's doing nothing?
Right. I do like Hronek too, and I like Troy Stetcher, but
yeah,
you definitely can't put them into a contender position. But I do like the draft picks that they made. Who'd they get in the draft this year? Wasn't it
Lucas Raymond, right?
Yeah,
Lucas Raymond.
I mean, that's right there. That's a huge player for the future. He's going to be really, really, really good. But all right, next up, we got Chicago.
I love the Blackhawks. I've been to a Blackhawks game before, but they are pretenders.
Okay.
I also think they're pretenders. They used to be a good team, but I don't think they can just keep up anymore. It doesn't seem like too much has changed within the past years. I mean, they're still riding with Kane and Taves, trying to carry the team.
Taves isn't even playing.
There you go. Makes it even worse. Pretenders.
I mean, they're losing by touchdowns every game. It feels like. I mean, I think they're playing on sport. Their goaltending is going to be their biggest issue this year. I mean,
yeah,
they're just pretenders. There's no doubt about it, and there's no other way to break it.
Right.
I agree. I'm looking at it right now. They lost to the Lightning. They got swept at a combined score of 10-3. Let up 5 goals in both games. Then they lost. They let up 5 goals in each game against the Panthers again. One of them being an overtime loss. So, I mean, they almost stuck it out. They beat the Red Wings 4-1, but I mean, like, those two teams could literally be 50-50. They're either going to win or lose.
Correct.
And they play the Red Wings again. So, yeah, I would agree. Goaltending. I mean, if they had, like, 6 years younger Corey Crawford still, like, they might be safe. But he retired and told the Devils, fuck you. So he's gone, and they got to figure out their situation quick.
Yeah. Really quickly, too, just a quick yes or no before we move on to the last team in the division. Does Patrik Laine finally get traded this year?
No, I think he sticks with the Blackhawks. Are you saying that, like, because of his age and, like, he might want to move on, or is his contract almost up, or?
His contract still got 3 years, I believe, but you're talking about a Chicago team that's completely depleted. Of course, you always have the Buffalo fans that he's going to want to come home before he retires.
Yeah, right. All of Buffalo thrashed him because he raped a woman. He's not going to want to come back here. Everyone hates him.
It's a pipe dream. Patrik Laine probably ain't going to come here, but I'm just curious as to think whether you guys think with the way that they've played this year, is he going to get traded? So you say no. Nick, what do you think?
No. There's just no way. I mean, me, if I was running a team, what I'd have to give up, because obviously Kane is still a very, very, very good player. Well, I'd say top 10. He's just, phenomenal. Yeah. But he's making $10.5 million. He's probably close to 30, if not 30 years old. I'm not paying him that for the next 3 years to get 30-year-old Patrik Laine. You asked me this 7 years ago, I'd give up half my team for him.
Right.
Now, no.
Tyler?
I mean, I don't think he's going anywhere, but I wouldn't mind seeing him at leisure rinks by Duff's,
Just to quickly answer your question, Nick, he's 32.
Yeah.
That's not worth it.
Guy's good for shootouts.
Apparently,
he's good for everything still.
Apparently, Artemi Panarin's 29 too. Did not know that. So
yeah, he played a long time in the KHL. He came over at 26 years old. So
fucking bum.
I'm gonna go no too. I just think that it's been a topic that's come up a lot. But last team in the Discover Central Division, Dallas, pretender or contender?
Contender. There's no question about it. They were a solid team last year. I think they're going to be a solid team this year. They got lots of talent. Goalies seem great. I mean, they got Big Ben, one of my main mans,
Big
former
Ben
Tampa
Bishop.
player. I love him.
Ben.
I think they're contenders for sure. There's no question about it.
I am going to agree with Tyler. Part of me really thinks that I've now put 5 out of 8 teams as contenders, which is just not possible, but we'll see how the season goes. But yeah, I kind of agree. One player I think is actually pretty underrated is Alexander Radulov. I think he gives a lot to the team, and I think he really helps them in times when they need it. From what I've seen, I'm pretty sure he plays a physical game, and he's pretty good at what he does for like the role he plays. So I think he's a big part of that team, but I would agree. I think they are contenders.
Yeah. Nick?
I mean, there's not much more I can say about it. They're contenders. I mean, they almost gave me like 17 heart attacks watching the Cup final last year. I mean, I can't go against them. I mean, me and Tyler, we know we love our Ben Bishop. I mean, how can you go against him? I mean, I know he's injured right now, but he'll come back, and I think he's gonna have a really good year. He'll be on
Bishop and
he'll probably play close to. I played 20 games this year, and hope that's all he has to play is just 20 games because he's gonna miss a little bit, but. I mean, touching on, Zach's point, Radulov plays a really good game, and they won. I know they won 7-0 yesterday, but he scored 2 power play goals yesterday, Radulov. So that's huge. That is huge points from Radulov. That's I mean, they're playing without Sagan, which does hurt a little bit, but they're still contenders. They're still a good team.
Yeah, I agree. I'm putting them as contenders too. They're definitely going to be a top team. I wouldn't be shocked to see them back in the Western Conference Finals again. I really wouldn't. They've got a really solid decor, got a great forward group, and you know what? To be honest with you, not knocking on them, not saying that they had a bad year last year or anything, but Tyler Sagan and Jamie Benn both were a little bit down in their production last year. If they get back onto their regular production, look out, because Dallas is going to be a really scary team.
Regularly scheduled program of Dallas scoring.
Yeah. All right, now to our division, Mass Mutual East. First up, Washington, fellas.
Contender.
I agree. Contenders. Obviously, lots of talent, just like any other team. I don't think there's a way that they can fall out. I mean, they're solid all around. I don't think they're really missing anything anywhere. I mean, they could have a better goaltender, but I think that's with the player talent that they have on the ice. I think it's enough to pull them through easily. So, contenders.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, I agree with Tyler 100% as well. I think the small question marks their goaltending. Other than that, they have excellent talent all around.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, and I think they only get better from here. I mean, obviously it's still early in the season, but Tom Wilson just went out with an injury, I think, last night. He plays a pretty good role on that team. And what were the reasons that, was it Kuznetsov and Ovechkin were out for? Did they also have
they broke COVID protocol.
Of course, they were probably snorting coke in Kuznetsov's car or something like that.
Good one. No, they were actually in the hotel room together when they weren't supposed to be.
So yeah, I mean, like once they get those main guys back, like they only get better. They really can't get worse unless injuries hurt them again. So
I think they're missing four games. That's all they're missing. Orlov,
I think
Samson,
so. Yeah.
Kuznetsov. I mean, that's nothing.
Yeah. All right, Philly.
I mean, judging how they're doing right now, I'd say contenders. I hate Philly, and I hate saying that, but they have a good team. So, yeah, I mean, as far as I know, old man Giroux is still putting up good numbers for the team. So, as long as their top couple lines can keep it up, I mean, it's only going to trickle down through the team. So,
right.
I also think they're going to be contenders. I don't think they're going to be a big powerhouse going into it. I think they're going to be bottom of the barrel, just scraping in, and then just get wiped first round. But I do think they'll make it. So
I mean, well, there's not many holes in that lineup. I mean, their third line I think is Nolan Patrick, JVR, and Vorchuk. I mean, yes, Vorchuk and JVR are both in their 30s, but they're still very, very players. They can still produce. They have Carter Hart, who is probably the best under 23 goalie in the NHL. There's nothing else that compares to him. And I mean, it's just that simple.
Yeah, I agree. I think that
Rat.
Philly. Yeah, no. I agree. I think Philly that they're one of the top teams right now in the league for me. I think Carter Hart's only going to get better from here, and they've got way too much skill, way too much talent, way too much depth on that lineup to not be in the conversation of playoffs. And I honestly wouldn't be shocked to see them end up in the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Just one thing I want to jump on too. I see that every player except for 6 on their starting roster have put up at least a point so far in the first 5 games. The only players that really haven't put up points are players that have played 2 games or less, discounting 2. And I know that Sean Couturier and Ivan Provorov can put up more than 2 points and 1 point. So, I mean, everyone's playing pretty well right now. Everyone's getting points. Everyone's helping out the team. So,
yeah. And I give a lot of credit to the coaching staff because Alain Vigneault is a very underrated coach in the NHL. Moving on, New York Islanders. What do we think?
pretenders. I mean, looking at the roster, I don't see anybody that spooks me like, oh man, I really hope this guy doesn't tear up on us tonight. It seems all like pretty average players for the most part with decent goaltending. I don't think it's enough to pull through though. So I'm going to call them pretenders.
yeah, so where did they finish in the standings last season? Like, did they just make the playoffs?
I don't think they just made it. I think that they were in by not a lot, but they were in by a good amount.
Okay, so I'm going to say contenders then.
Okay. What do you think, Nick?
I'm going to say contenders just based on the fact that Varlamov has had 2 out of his 3 starts have been shutouts. When he faced like almost 70 shots his first 2 games and he didn't give up a single goal. I just think that a lot relies on him. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals with Tampa last year. I mean, they really gave Tampa a run for their money, so it should be interesting to see how it goes.
I agree. I'm going to put them in the contender category as well. They got a lot of depth too. Matt Barzal is going to light it up this year. I can guarantee that. He's excited that he got that contract. Varlamov's, I've always loved Varlamov, and I think that he's a really good goalie. So I'm putting the Islanders as contenders. I don't know how far they get in the playoffs, but they're definitely getting in for me. Pittsburgh.
I think that they will be contenders. I don't think that they're gonna be able to secure it too early in the season. I think it's gonna be a stretch for them. I mean, Crosby's getting old, Malkin he's getting old. Like all their talents kind of dwindling down. I mean, they're still good players and all, but I don't think it's enough to really carry them through the season. But I do think they will end up contending.
Yeah, so I somewhat agree with Tyler. I think their biggest issue is going to be their goalkeeping, how consistent they can be. Ever since they lost Fleury, I feel like that kind of started like a trickle-down effect in the organization because then Matt Murray kind of started playing bad as well, and I don't even think he's with the team anymore now. So, and kind of looking at it like Crosby's old. I mean, he still plays very well, but you can't expect him to do it all like you could 3-4 years ago. So like Tyler said, I think this is going to be like they're going to be on the ropes for the last couple of weeks, and depending on how they play in that stretch is going to determine whether they make the playoffs or not. Because I kind of see this division. I mean, obviously, like you said, the top 4 teams make it, but
yeah,
I see the Bruins, Penguins, Islanders, Flyers, and Capitals all being contenders. So one of those teams has to miss out, and I think a couple of those might be fighting for a spot come the last couple of weeks of the season.
All right. Nick?
So I think they are pretenders. They made the playoffs last year. They played Montreal, who I believe was the 15
Very
seed or the
last
16 seed, and in the East they were the 8th seed. The Canadians swept them in the first round of the playoffs. I think that they're a team that's definitely going downhill. Their goaltending is a huge issue. And their bottom 6 scoring is going to be a big problem this year. I feel like it's going to be Malkin, Crosby, and Gensel leading the way with a little help from Rust and maybe Brandon Tanev. He's looked really good. And then your D is probably Letang's going to help you a little bit. But other than that, you're in some trouble if you're a Pittsburgh fan, I think.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm going pretender too. You're talking about a Pittsburgh team that is on a very, very sharp decline right now. There's already been talk about Malkin and Crosby possibly thinking about retirement in the next couple of years. You lost Phil Kessel last year. You lost Justin Schultz in the offseason. You lost Patrick Hornquist. It's a very depleted offensive group. The defense is not young at all other than John Marino. And the goaltending is the big issue with Pittsburgh. I do not understand trading Matt Murray and putting all your trust in Casey DeSmith. Or Tristan Jarry, whoever they got now. They're still both there.
Yeah,
I don't even know.
It
doesn't matter. I mean, they're both not even backups in my opinion. But I put them as pretenders. All right, this one will be interesting. New Jersey Devils.
Pretenders.
It's another talent thing for me. I mean, they got like Subban. I mean, what's he going to do? Just fucking skate the puck and slap shot it at the blue line? I mean, there's not much he's going to do otherwise. I mean, Zajac has been on the team for how long now? I mean, I remember playing freaking like NHL 10 with this fucker being on the Devils. I mean, come on. I don't think they have enough talent to pull through. I think that they're pretenders and they're going to fall short.
Okay. Nick?
Yeah, I agree as well. I mean, their brightest future, I guess, could to say, is Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes. But it's a thing where in the NHL nowadays, you can't have a one-line team. You can't run on a one-horse line, and that's kind of what they're going to rely on. They just don't have that, and like it's just not going to work for them. Their goaltending is going to be an issue as well. You sign Crawford, he retires, and now you were in the same situation you were before. So they're definitely pretenders for me. They're not even going to come close.
Right. I'm putting them pretenders as well, simply because of the division they're in. I'm not going to lie. If they were even in the last division, I think I could make an argument for them. I think that definitely a year or two down the road, we're talking about a different team. I love Jesper Boquist and Bratt. I love Nikita Gusev. Jack Hughes it's a big swing with him. It really comes down to him and Hischier this year on how well the Devils do. If they can both get on their horses and start playing well. Andreas Janssen they picked up. I think that was a really good pickup for them. I still liked their prospect in Michael McLeod, even though a lot of people have already given up on him. And I think another issue with them is I think Palmieri is going to be dealt at the deadline this year, finally. It's been talked about the last couple of years, and I think that this is the time that he's going to go. I still like Zajac. I like Zaka. I like Wood. But I don't think the talent level's there. Their defense is not impressive at all. Sure, you got Subban and Vatanen. Vatanen's a little bit washed up now. I do like Ryan Murray. Kulikov's there, old Buffalo boy. I'm okay with Kulikov, but I do like Connor Carrick, and Will Butcher is one of the most overrated defensemen, I think, in the NHL right now. And then the goaltending is the biggest one for me. The only thing I will say about the goaltending is if New Jersey can somehow, some way trade for a goaltender or sign one in the offseason that can hold down the fort, they're going to have two really good goaltenders in the future. Blackwood is an amazing goalie, but he's not ready to handle the full season yet. He's not ready for it.
Agreed.
And Eric Comrie, who they picked up on waivers after getting bounced around, he is a great goalie that's going to be really good in the future. But like I said, for now, I'm putting them pretenders too. Boston Bruins.
I think Boston, I think they're going to be pretenders. I mean, it's the same old Bruins without Chara. I mean, you got Marchand looking glass, sniffing ass. I mean, it's like the same old Bruins. And there's competition in the division now. I don't think they're going to be able to keep up. I think they're going to fall short. So, pretenders.
So with Rask still injured, I'm assuming Halak is their starting goalie.
I don't believe Rask is still injured. I think he is injured.
No, he's playing.
Okay. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the Bruins play.
I think they're splitting currently.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't say he's injured or anything, so.
Okay. Nick, I think you were going to talk, so you can go ahead.
I think they are contenders. I mean, the Bruins are a team that's, not awful. I mean, they have the talent level. They're currently playing without I believe Bergeron is hurt. Marchand is healthy, but David Pastrnak is hurt. That's a huge hole in their lineup. I mean, Pastrnak was, they were called the perfection line. I mean, how are you supposed to go with that when you have a line that's called the perfection line? So, yes, they did lose Torrey Krug. That hurts a little bit. They did get a little bit weaker on the back end, like Tyler said. Chara's gone as well. You lose a lot on the back end, but you still have Charlie McAvoy, who's a really good player. You have Grzelcyk, who can play him. Miller's pretty good. They have some good, sound defensemen who are going to help them out a little bit.
Carlo.
But it just all depends on. I mean, the Bruins, the biggest thing they've ever done when they won the cup, they went to the cup, they, Eastern Conference Finals, their biggest help was their bottom six scoring. That was what they were all about. I mean, they brought in Iginla the 1 year to put on the bottom six. They brought in Yager to put on the bottom six. I mean, just guys that are, just older or, unknown, and they play the bottom six, they score. I mean, Chris Wagner, who came from Anaheim, who was like, terrible, he scores, he hits, and that's what he wants, and that's what they want from him. And I think that's a big thing. That's what Boston's going to help him on. So,
right. I think Zach, what did you put them as, contenders or pretenders?
So I kind of agree with both Nick and Tyler. I see them as contenders. However, I feel like they're going to fight with Pittsburgh for a final. Well, not just Pittsburgh. I feel like they're going to fight with either Pittsburgh or the Islanders for a final spot, just based off the fact that, yes, they do have decent defensemen, but I think they lost like 2 or 3 defensemen in the offseason, and they didn't really replace them with anybody notable. And like you said, they have Grzelcyk and then John Moore as well, who are both out with lower body injuries right now. I don't know what their timeline is, but they could be coming back next game or something. And then, like you said, Pasternak's out and Kasha is also out. Apparently Bergeron's listed as active right now, so I don't know if it's just a source issue or if he is actually playing, but they say he's active right now.
Active right now, yeah.
So I think this season it's going to come a lot more down to that scoring throughout the 4 lines, because I just don't see, while they do have decent defensemen, I don't see that. I do see their defense being the biggest factor. And if they can play good defense, then I know they'll be able to score. But if they can't, then I feel like there's going to come a time when eventually their scoring just can't keep up with the motor it's going, and it'll just fall off. But I'm going to put them as contenders for right now.
I'm going to put them as pretenders. I like the goaltending. I like the Bruins. I do. But this is a really tough division this year with the new division alignments. I don't see them beating Philly. I don't see them beating Washington. I don't see them beating out the Islanders. Sure, they could probably make a push for that last playoff spot, but I do think that whether it be the Rangers or the Devils or Pittsburgh, somebody is going to end up shaking it up in that last spot. They're still a deep team. They're still the Boston Bruins, but they did lose a lot. And right now, like Nick said, with no Pastrnak, that is a massive blow to this team because it shakes up their whole lineup because their lineup is really good when they're healthy. And they're one of the most perfect lineups in hockey, but without Pasta, it really hurts.
Yeah, and just to quickly touch on that, they're winning 2-1 against the Flyers right now. However, 3 out of their first 4 games have been decided in extra time, whether that was in a shootout or overtime. And you can tell that they're scoring without or their play without their star players is kind of hurting because they won in a shootout 3-2. They lost in overtime 2-1. They lost 1-0 to the Islanders, and then they just beat Philly in a shootout 5-4. So they've only scored more than 2 goals in one game so far.
Right.
So, you got to wait till those good players come back.
Right, for sure. All right, New York Rangers.
Pretenders.
Interesting.
I think
this is going to be an interesting one.
I also think they're going to be pretenders. I mean, I don't think they're going to be able to compete. To my knowledge, they weren't too great last year either. I mean, I feel like they're going to have to rely on Panarin a lot. And if anything happens to him, I mean, I think they're fucked.
Really. They don't even have Panarin anymore, actually. So
really?
Sorry. No, yeah, I was thinking of different. Never mind. I was thinking of different situation.
You were thinking of Columbus, weren't you?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
They need
my penis.
They need Panarin to pick up like he did last year, and if he's not able to, I don't think they're gonna have good chances to pull through. So pretenders for sure.
What do you think, Nick?
I'm going pretenders as well.
Okay.
They're too young all around. Who's their coach now? Is it Dale Quinn or
Dan Quinn? Yeah,
Dale Quinn, whatever the heck his name is.
Old BU coach.
He's sitting Tony DeAngelo.
Yeah.
Tony DeAngelo is probably their most skilled defenseman they have.
Aside from Adam Fox,
yes. Penalty in the first game he took a stupid penalty in the first game, and now that's cost him. I know the last 2 games he scratched him. It's like you're hurting the team. I mean, the first game they got absolutely smoked by the Islanders. I mean, there's too many questions. I know. I mean, Locke first overall pick, and he hasn't even touched the score sheet yet. Once you play 5 games in the NHL, you have to come up somewhere. I mean, it's an assist or a goal or something. I mean, there's so many question marks. They have Panarin as a bit of jet. Those are 2 solid guys. Their defense is solid as well. But when you're sitting DeAngelo, it's a big, big problem. And then you have Shishorsh, whatever the hell you say his name. And he hasn't played great this year. Yeah, I mean, you lose Lundqvist, and you think this guy's the answer, and he hasn't played great. So I think they're pretenders for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and they are scoring this season. They, like you said, they got blown out 4-0 against the Islanders in their first game, but then they bounce back with a 5-0 win. They lose 4-3 to the Devils, and then they lose in a shootout 4-3 to the Penguins. So they've scored 3 or more goals in every game. But I think, like you said, their defense is what's hurting them. Like, they're showing early already that they can score
defensive
goals.
Defensive goal is going to hurt them the most.
So if they can find a way to stop other teams from scoring against them, then they will be fine. But right now it doesn't look like they've figured that out yet. So
Right. I'm putting them pretenders too. I like the Rangers a lot. I think they got a really bright future. But as Nick said, they're just too young at this point with guys that they are putting too much faith in. I think they're riding a little bit too hard on Lafreniere right now, hoping that he's going to be the next coming of Sidney Crosby. A lot is riding on Kaapo Kakko this year. He really didn't impress anybody with the way that he played last year. You got guys like Pavel Buchnevich who are decent, but they still have a lot to prove. Cheadle's the same way. Gauthier. You still got Kreider and Zibanejad, who are obviously really good players in the NHL, and then Panarin. But still, it's just not enough for me. The defense it's getting better, but it's not where it should be. I like D'Angelo. I like Fox. I like Keandre Miller. I like Jacob Trouba, but I don't think it's enough. And the goaltending is just too young for me. Georgiev and Shesterkin are not good enough for me. If they had an experienced veteran goaltender, maybe I could consider them contenders. All right, so I think we're doing Western Conference next episode with the reverse retros. So we got one more team left in the East here.
Talk about Buffalo as well, though. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll go over the West next episode. We have reverse retros. We're also going to touch on the Bills before we end.
yeah, that'll be our
Okay.
outro.
So yeah, lastly, let's finish with the Sabres. I think I know what everybody's answer is going to be here, but
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say pretenders. I could be biased, and I would love to say that they are contenders, but with the early season struggles they're already showing, I mean, if they would have had like a mixed bag of results, I would have said, oh, yeah, I think there's a chance they can make it in. But I think right now the upside to downside is too in favor of the downside right now, and I just don't think they're going to get it fully going in time to make the playoffs.
I mean, Kings of the Queen City here. We're about to be the mean city and talk shit on the Sabres. As much as we love them, I mean, we have talent, but I don't think we have enough chemistry within our team yet. With all the new talent that we have acquired, doesn't seem to be meshing too well. Obviously, I mean, we're baking the cake with the frosting and putting the flour on after right now. I mean, to have a good season, we need to have consistency, which we are known to not have ever. I mean,
right.
And our new division, it's teams that we always lose to. It's a good division, and I don't think we're going to be able to keep up. So we're not even pretending. We're just sitting in the back of the bus at this point, in the corner.
Yeah. Nick?
So I'm going to be difficult. And I'm going to put contender.
Wow.
I think that Allmark is going to catch fire. He's going to play absolutely out of his mind, and he's going to prove why he's the starting goaltender. I think that Hutton is not the starting goaltender. I think I hate the excuse of he's looked good in training camp, so we're going to reward him. I just think that's a garbage. I think it's a garbage reason because, listen, when Tage Thompson is playing with Jack Eichel and a scrimmage, he should look good because he is playing in a scrimmage against other Sabres. So Hutton is not your starter. Allmark is. And I think that Eichel's going to start clicking. I think that Eichel and Hall played well together. I just think everything's going to get going, and it's going to – I think that they're going to catch a streak. And I'm not saying they're going to be 1-2. I'm not even going to say they're going to be 3. I think they're going to sneak into 4. They're going to be fighting with somebody else or 3 other teams to get to 4, and they're going to get in. I really think they have a good chance this year. And I think that Eichel is going to try to carry this team on his back to get them there, because if he doesn't and the team does not play like that, I think that Eichel could be leaving.
I'm going to piggyback off of Nick right now. I'm not going to agree with you. Unfortunately, I'm going to be the pessimist. I'm the type of guy right now with the Sabres that I'm at the point where I need to see results before I can say yes. So I have them as a pretender. I'm not ruling it out, though, that they make it into the last spot. I just don't see it happening right now. I think, like you said, if things get going, And we see Eric Stahl play a little bit better, and we see Jeff Skinner get back to a 20 to 30 goal form, and we see the defense playing much better. I do think Ullmark is going to improve this year. It's a big year for him, in my mind. I believe he's on a 1-year deal, if I'm not wrong. But he's got to show it this year. He's got to show he can be a goalie that we count on. And if not, it's time to move on. But I can't put them in just because of this division. If it was the Atlantic, the regular Atlantic, I think I could say, yeah, I'll put them in. But not right now. I don't see it happening.
Yep.
Alrighty. To end out, talk about the Bills games. We can do score predictions or whatever you guys want to do. I just want to mention, I just looked up what it is as of the night before the game here. The odds on the lines.com, they have the Bills at plus 3.5 on the spread, Chiefs at -3, and the over-under is 54.5.
Okay. So that's shifted from what I've seen. I mean, obviously it's different for like different sources. But I think last I saw it, it was at -3 and +3. Obviously, it's gone up half a point now. So
right. FanDuel has them at trying to find they're already predicting the Super Bowl game. They have that one up first. That's why I'm trying to like sort through it.
right.
You said that the over under was 54.
54.5 points. Yes.
I think that's definitely an under. If I'm putting my money on that, I'm definitely picking under.
Yeah, I think I am too.
I just feel like.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Zach.
Nah, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
I think that I chucked the weather for tomorrow's game, and I know it's supposed to be a little hazy there, and not supposed to be like Buffalo weather, Buffalo fall weather, and I just think that if it was 55 degrees and the sun was obviously it's gonna be at night, but 55 degrees, clear, and no wind, I would take that over any day of the week. But I just think that the way the weather's gonna be, and the way that somebody's got to run the ball in this game, and somebody's gonna have to chew up time, and we can't
be the Chiefs.
as a Bills fan, we can't go touchdown for touchdown with Pat Mahomes. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna work.
No.
Agreed.
No.
Defense and special teams got to have a big day.
That's why I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for saying it, but I really, honestly, I'm hoping I'm wrong. I don't see the Bills winning this game. As much as I hate the narrative of you have to have a good running back in the playoffs and you have to run the ball, I think it's true in this case. When you got two teams like this with gunslinger quarterbacks that put up almost 30 points a game, it's going to come down to who can ground and pound it. And it's Singletary versus Edwards, Hilaire, and Le'Veon Bell, and Patrick Mahomes. Allen can rush too, but the Chiefs got the edge on us right now, in my opinion.
So what's your prediction, Matt, for the score?
I say wait. I say we do
I
score predictions right at the end.
We hold off.
Okay.
Yeah,
So one thing I want to argue on that though is Le'Veon Bell has been garbage ever since he decided to sit out for an entire season. Now, I mean,
no doubt.
That's not saying that he's not still a decent running back. Like, I'm sure he could just have a game and just pop off at some point. I just don't see it happening, but he still, I feel like, has that talent in him. Edwards Hilaire, I'm sure at this point it's probably almost 100% confirmed that he's going to be back now. Although he is coming off an injury. I might be wrong, but I think he's been injured for the last few weeks now. So
yeah.
I mean, he's been a very good running back for his rookie year, but that's not to say he's coming off an injury, so he's going to have some slight bit of rust, if any. And yes, Patrick Mahomes can run and scramble at times. And let's just say he doesn't have any injury. He doesn't have any issues with him. I think that the Bills are going to play this game similarly, not exactly the same, but similarly to how they played against the Ravens. Now, they can't drop back in zone the entire game because Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill are literally just going to run crossing routes on him all game, and Mahomes will find those pockets to throw it in. However, I think that the Bills are going to play a lot of similar things where they're going to drop zone and they're going to rush the outside heavy to keep Mahomes in, because I've noticed that a lot of like stats and a lot of videos and a lot of like news coverage has touched on how Mahomes really isn't too good when he stays in the pocket. Like, it's just similar to Allen. I mean, Allen's taken a big leap this year, but similar to Allen, they're both able to extend the play very well. And when they get out of the pocket is when they're very dangerous. So I think the Bills are going to try a lot of contained plays, and they're going to try and force Mahomes to get that ball out. Now, in my opinion, Mahomes is a lot better at improvisation and getting that ball out and making sure it gets to the spot compared to Lamar. However, I think if the Bills can come in with a set game plan, just like they did for Lamar, I think eventually throughout the game, it will reward them and they will find a way to kind of contain the Chiefs. Now, I was talking with Matt a couple days ago. I was listening to the Pat McAfee show, and on average, I believe they said that the teams to beat Mahomes have had to score over 35 points to beat him. So if you want to guarantee a win against Mahomes, you almost have to score at least 5 touchdowns, pretending there's no any other points scored, which is just, I think, unreasonable to ask any quarterback. Say you have to do that. So like Matt said, I think if we're going to beat the Chiefs, I think it's going to come down to the run game, because we know both passing offenses are very prolific.
Right.
I mean,
I'm actually checking out ESPN too, and I just want to know what you guys will think about this. It's on ESPN's website. It's by Marcel Louis-Jacques, who's Bill's beat reporter. He has this bold prediction for the game Saturday. He says that Josh Allen will surpass 350 passing yards. Stephon Diggs is going to have his 3rd straight game with 100 receiving yards and a touchdown. And he says, and a little bolder, the Bills not only win, but they outpace the Chiefs in their backyard.
So Tyler, were you about to say something, or do you want me to go?
oh, you can go ahead. I'll hold off.
Okay. So I definitely see Stephon Diggs possibly having over 100 yards. Aside from L'Jarius Sneed, who is a pretty good young cornerback, Rashad Breeland has kind of fallen off over the last couple of years. And other than Tyrann Mathieu, the Chiefs secondary is not very good. And despite them having good players such as Frank Clark and Chris Jones on their D-line, their D-line is also not very good. Their defense as a whole, aside from like 4 or 5 players, aren't really good. I think they just gel very well together, and when players need to make plays, they make plays. So I don't think that Josh Allen, however, is going to have over 350 yards. Honestly, even though I think Diggs will get a 100-yard day, I don't even see Josh Allen breaking 300 yards. I think he's going to be somewhere in the 200s, to be totally honest. And I think the Bills are going to try and get that run game going early. Now, obviously, if it's not working and the passing game's working, you're just going to keep going back to it. So, like, that prediction could be completely off. But I just don't see him having over even 300 yards, despite them having a not-so-good defense, just because I think we're going to take the plays when we get them. And if that just involves Stephon Diggs running slant routes and quick outs all game and quick curls, then, I mean, you're going to take it all day. And same thing goes with Beasley and Brown, and now maybe even Kenny Stills if Gabriel Davis ends up being out. So, right. And then what was the third prediction? That we outpace the Chiefs?
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen a single team this year outpace the Chiefs. I've seen defenses stop them, but I haven't seen a team outpace them on the offensive side of the ball. So I just don't see that being possible.
Right.
I mean, for tomorrow's game, it's going to be tough. I unfortunately don't think we're going to be able to pull through unless Mahomes is dazed from his hit last week. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that him being caught in the pocket or something, us rushing him, will kind of scare him and keep him on his toes and make him play off. Hopefully, maybe throw a pick or two.
He's still got that toe
I'm
injury
hoping.
too, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, no, the Chiefs, they're not. I don't think they're afraid to play the backup either if they really need to.
No.
Agreed.
I don't think they have any issues putting him in. I feel like they have plenty of confidence in him. Like when they had him in against the Browns at the end of the game after Mahomes got taken out, when they were 4th and inches at the end of the game, they could have easily just done a little running play and just jump over the line like probably any other team would. But they had enough confidence in him to do a passing play on such a big moment such as that. But I don't think it's going to be a complete blowout for us. I think if we do lose, it'll be by no more than a touchdown and a field goal. But we do really need to be on our A game to pull through tomorrow. And the last thing I want to see is fucking Brady beat the Packers. So then it's Brady versus Bills. That's the last thing I want to see. Be a bunch of garbage.
Agreed.
I actually want that. If
don't.
I could pick the Super Bowl, I would pick it to be Bills versus Tampa. I would love to see a Josh Allen Brady showdown because it would never have happened if Brady was still in the AFC East.
Fuck that shit, bro. Everyone knows Brady is the Bills killer.
I don't care about the result. I mean, that would just be a matchup for the decades.
Me either, because I like Tampa.
Yeah, of course. I know you do.
So
for you and Nick, really quickly, I'm looking at the expert picks for both games tomorrow. Sorry to break it to you boys. There is one expert predicting that Tampa Bay beats Green Bay. It is 8-1, and it's Reed who picked
And
Tampa.
hey, if the Bucks don't win, that means Green Bay goes through, and you know who's going to be a happy camper?
Aaron Rodgers.
Dank.
Yeah.
Big Packers guy.
And then the expert picks for the Bills game. Bills are obviously not the favorite in this one by these experts at ESPN. Bowen has the Chiefs. Clay took the Bills. Graziano took the Bills. Kims took the Chiefs. Reed took the Chiefs. Rutledge took the Chiefs. Seifert took the Bills. Wickersham took the Chiefs. And Woody took the Chiefs as well.
Do we want to go predictions now?
Yeah, if you guys don't want anything else, I think we can just end on our predictions and call it an episode.
I don't think it's gonna be too crazy high scoring. I think the final score is gonna be 24-13. I think we're gonna get shut down close to the end zone when we need to get a touchdown and get
24-13 Chiefs.
Yes.
Okay.
Just get forced to be cut short on touches, and I think we're gonna fall through the cracks in that pace and just get outscored in that sense.
Okay. Interesting. Zach.
I'm gonna say the score is gonna be 25-23 Bills.
Going with the good old Bills.
Yeah, I think
24.
Obviously it's the playoffs, so teams play a lot better than they would in the regular season, especially if they've been rolling into the playoffs. So I think we're going to have to take points when we need them. And as long as Tyler Bass can have a good, consistent day, I think we're going to take the field goal every day and just put points up on the board. I mean, if the Chiefs score a touchdown, I do see us going for it if it's like a 4th and 1, 4th and 2, and we're in their zone.
Oh, yeah.
However, I think with how high octane their offense is, if we get the chance to put points up before they can on a drive, we're going to take the field goal because we need every point we can get, especially if our defense is going to be able to get stops.
It all depends on the coin toss.
Yeah, honestly, the coin toss is huge. I could argue that with people forever, but that's for another episode. Nick. As much as I love my Bills, my dad's a huge Chiefs fan. I gotta pick them.
I don't have to, but I think this is what's going to happen. I'm thinking 31-20 Chiefs. I just think that, regardless of what Mahomes is feeling, Hilaire absolutely tore us up in our own stadium a bunch of weeks back. And people could argue that we didn't have Milano and we didn't have, I believe it was
I think Edmonds was out as well.
Levi Wallace.
We didn't have
Edmonds out as well.
Edmonds.
I know Levi
We
Wallace
didn't
was
have Jefferson.
I know that's the case, but the biggest thing is with the Chiefs running backs, they are not Derrick Henry plow through the middle and I'm going to break off 15 yards. They're going to run West Coast and they're going to get wide and they're going to break off some runs. And some of our cornerbacks, and besides Jordan Poyer, our secondary is the worst at tackling, like the absolute worst. So I feel like if they get past our line, we're in big trouble. So I'm thinking 31-20. I think is that what I said? 31-20. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
31.
Yep. 31-20
Chiefs. I just think Mahomes is too good. I think look at him. He was playing with a bad toe for like the whole drive, and then he goes and gets smoked. He still wanted to play. You could tell he was doing well. And I just think that the Chiefs are a tough team in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Go Bills.
Yeah,
but I just think
absolutely.
it's the way it's going to go sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's a very fair prediction.
Very quickly, before I give my score, we don't need score predictions. I just want to add into the NFC Championship game. Who do you guys have winning those games? Nick, I know your answer already. Tampa.
Nah,
Go Bucks, baby. All day.
Green Bay is winning.
I have
Green Bay
Tampa.
for Zach.
Green Bay is 100% winning.
I have Tampa, but I want Green Bay.
Okay. Nick, Tampa.
I got Bucks 38-27. I'll even give you a score prediction too.
As much as I love you, Nick, I think that Tampa is really scary. They are. I just don't think you can stop Aaron Rodgers right now. He's having an MVP caliber season, and he's close to retirement. He's trying to taste that Lombardi in the ring. Brady's already got a bunch of them. I think Aaron Rodgers has the edge.
The Bucks already beat him once. Just saying. The Bucks already beat him once this year. They can do it again. And Rodgers 2 picks.
I know.
I gotta
go with them here.
I gotta pick Green Bay just because Antonio Brown's gonna be out now. Obviously, he's like their third string receiver now with that offense that he joined. However, Godwin didn't play very well last week, and I think I might be wrong on this, but I feel like he might be slightly banged up. I think he's going to play, but I think he might have like a very
mild whole team's injury. Banged up, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
That whole offense is in rough shape. Yeah. Rojo's got a bad hamstring.
Exactly. And Mike Evans, I feel like he's played the entire season with some sort of minor injury. I feel like he's always got something wrong, whether it is his hamstring or something else. And no discounting them. It's Tom Brady and it's 2 very good receivers and a good running back core. However, I think right now, Jair Alexander is the best cornerback in the NFL right now. I think he's better than Jalen Ramsey, despite some of the numbers I've seen compared. I think there was some stat, I don't remember the exact stat, but it said that Jair Alexander is the first cornerback since way back when to hold a team against players he was covering to negative yards in a playoff game or something like that. Like, I think he held all the players he covered, he gave up, I think, 1 catch for like negative 3 yards or something like that. So he played lights out. And
right. I'll just touch on it real quick about the Bucs defense. I know that they haven't looked great. Last week they brought back Devin White, who's an insane linebacker.
Yep.
He can cover, he can tackle. He's really, really good. Second year, he's proven himself. They bring back Vita Vea, their D tackle. He hasn't played since October. That could be a huge thing with Aaron Jones. So if they're blocking Aaron Jones, it shows that in games where Aaron Jones, I don't know if it's actual stat, but if you can look it up, under 100 yards that Aaron Jones rushed, they're in trouble. I know last time the Bucs played him, he rushed for I think like 50. So yeah. I don't know. I'm going for my Bucs. It should be a game. I think if Breeze was in the NFC Championship, it wouldn't be as much as the game is going to be this Sunday.
True.
Because of the weather and stuff. I mean, Breeze is coming from a dome, but Brady's played in Foxborough for how long in the cold weather?
Exactly.
He knows what it's like.
I was going to say, I don't think the weather is so much a factor for Brady. I think it's a factor for the rest of the Bucs offense. So the only way I see,
absolutely, 100%, 100%.
I think that the Bucs defense, like you said, even though they haven't played great, they are easily the best defense out of the two. And the only way that the Packers are going to win this game is if they've done what they've done almost all season, and that's get out to a lead early and manage the game. Because you saw it against the Rams. Right. I think they only kicked a field goal at first, and I think the Rams may have even been up by a touchdown at one point. But as soon as the Packers regained that lead, now obviously the Rams is a much different team and they had injuries and whatnot. But as soon as the Packers got that lead, they kept the lead. And every time the Rams got points on the board, they had an answer for it, and they put more points up on the board. So it's going to be an interesting.
For sure.
All right, boys. Right before we end here, I'll give you my prediction, my score.
0-0.
Next, yeah, good one. Next episode, hopefully we're talking about the Bills making the Super Bowl, and we'll be able to discuss that, but we'll see. You guys kind of followed suit on what everybody is kind of predicting as far as the scores go. I'm going to be a little different, and I'll give you my reason. I think that they're going to be score. I'm going to take the Bills just because. Go Bills, you know. Maybe it's not realistic, but I like it. I'm going to go 13-10. I think this is going to – everybody is expecting this to be a really high-scoring affair. I get it. You got two high-octane offenses playing each other. But when it comes down to it, I think the Chiefs are going to go rush a lot. The Bills' defense has stepped up in the past couple weeks. So I do think that even though they may give up a lot of rushing yards, I don't think they're going to give up that score. So the Chiefs are going to eat a lot of time off the clock. I do think the Bills are going to struggle to punch it into the end zone. They can get down the field, but I think as far as scoring, they're going to have trouble. So I do think this is going to be a really tight game, and it's going to come down to like a couple field goals or something at the end of the day. So I'm going to go 13-10 here.
Interesting.
But if that's all we got.
All right. Well, since I started, I'll end it because I like to hear myself talk. So for myself,
I like
Tyler, Matt, Zach, whoever who's watching, we appreciate you all. Hopefully this is the start of something fresh, you know, something maybe a little bit shorter next time. We got into a lot of stuff. We got to talking and stuff like that. But hopefully next week when we talk, we'll talk about the all-Canadian division of Contender Pretender, the West team, the West Division. We'll review all the reverse retros jerseys. We'll go, you know, through all of them. And then, you know, we'll find some other things to talk about. You know, we'll cover some more sports. We'll go over some, you know, hopefully the Bills in the Super Bowl, like Matt said. And that's about it. Tyler?
And expect a more visually appealing format for the podcast.
Yeah, Tyler here has been most of the reason he's been a little less engaged as the others. He's been working on a lot of formatting and making the podcast look a lot more pretty. So big thanks to that.
And we're hoping to get our like social medias up and running soon. So we'll be working on that too.
Where's everybody on their screen? I'm bottom left.
I'm top right.
I'm top left.
I have no idea.
So we're all over the place then.
I'm top left. So
I'm gonna say let's all put this in the middle and go Bills. And that's working.
We gotta leave with the Go Bills. All right, boys. Go Bills.
Go Bills, baby.
Go Bills. Gotta love it.
Go Bucks too.
Always Bucks.
Go Bills, Boo Brady. Let's go. And that was Kings of the Queen City.